Here we go, boys and girls. WrestleMania 40 is upon us. WrestleMania week has begun, and tonight's Go Home Raw is in the books. What did you guys think? I want some thoughts right away on this stuff. How would you rate or grade the show as it compared to last week with the epic beatdown of Cody by The Rock? And now this week, we got some physicality between Cody and The Rock. That was something I figured would happen at the beginning of the show when they, right off the bat, told you that Cody is not medically cleared. Yeah, we'll see about that. And so I had a feeling that maybe Cody would get some of The Rock tonight, but we still saw the bloodline stand tall. And I think that's a really good sign if you're a Cody fan, to be honest. I mean, I was going to be wondering a little bit if Cody and Seth got the upper hand on the bloodline and they stood tall to close the show. And that's how we go into Mania, with them getting the last word or the upper hand going in. Usually wrestling math, the person standing tall or holding the belt on the go home show loses on the pay-per-view. So they might really be making this one obvious here, but at the same time, I am not too concerned because I think the night one tag match is going to be a blast. And I think with bloodline rules most likely being the stip for night two, Cody and Roman, I think it's going to be all sorts of fun. And all of this talk I've been doing for the past couple of months now about how much I want the night two main event to be crazy overbooked. I want to have a lot of outside elements and interference and people coming from all directions. I think WWE's really setting the table for that pretty good here. I mean, even tonight going into the main event between Seth and Solo, based on what was set up in the beginning opening segment with him challenging not only The Rock, but Roman Reigns to a match. And the fact that, they're kind of, Cody's not going to be here, but we knew that. So I had a feeling that we might get some sort of, main event finish here that was going to rival or resemble something that we would have seen as fans in the Attitude Era between like 1999 and 2002. Some of those great go-home Raws leading up to Manias where a lot of wacky shit happened. I felt like it was going to feel like that, and for the most part, it did. We had The Rock and Roman Reigns whipping the fuck out of Seth and Cody with those weight belts and standing tall to close the show. I've been pretty enamored with The Rock just being involved to the degree that he's been involved in, these backstage fights, and he's, showing up to multiple shows in a row, sticking around for the whole show, not even just doing a segment and bouncing on his private plane to wherever the fuck. So the fact that he's in there, in the mix, such a big part of this, has been a lot of fun. And now I think the last two Monday Night Raws did an excellent job setting up WrestleMania. And I think this Friday on SmackDown, we're not going to get too much, probably anything at all, of Cody, Seth, Roman, or Rock, because it's going to be Battle Royal and Hall of Fame's going on. Roman is going to be inducting Paul Heyman later that night. So I think this was the end for, these four gentlemen going into this weekend's WrestleMania, and I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a week. It's been a big day. We got so much to get into today. I don't even know where to start. Jesus Christ, my notes are exploding with stuff. This could be a 3-hour stream tonight. I know it's a Monday, but those of you on the East Coast, y'all feel like hanging around till midnight, because it might take that long. Or shit, it's already midnight, 2 a.m. It might take that long to get through a lot of this stuff, because we also had, in addition to tonight's Go Home Raw, we had a humongously long 2-hour interview with CM Punk and Ariel Helwani on MMA Hour, where Punk spilled the beans on everything. I mean, he really talked about everything. The only thing he didn't talk about is what was protected under an NDA agreement that does exist. But he got into a lot of his AEW stuff, his WWE stuff, what happened when he left, what led to his WWE return, and a lot of things in between. So we're going to be talking about that too, because that was a huge interview that dropped today, and it had a whole lot of information in it. Also dropped today was the Bray Wyatt documentary on Peacock, which I have not seen yet. Elizabeth and I will probably get to that tonight if we can, because we still have to watch the Roman Reigns A&E doc as well. But if we get to the Bray Wyatt one tonight, I'll have some comments on it this week. Otherwise, it might take us till tomorrow to watch that. But we had a little tease of perhaps an Uncle Howdy return in the future as well. AEW has some releases ongoing. They're cutting a bunch of talent today. And we have a jam-packed Monday Night Raw to discuss. And they also released the cards Saturday and Sunday for WrestleMania. We now know which matches will be taking place on which nights. So we're going to talk about that as well, and maybe even some other things. It's going to be we got a lot of information in this episode for sure. I'm pretty stoked. It's going to be a badass WrestleMania week. I'm excited for it, and I'm really, really excited for this weekend, because we're going to be doing everything. You guys already know the drill. I talked about it this weekend, but just in case you don't know, I want you to go to my channel, check out the WrestleMania 40 season playlist that's located right there, and save the links for this weekend. On night 1, we're going to be doing a live watch party and post-show review on Saturday night. And then on night 2, we're going to do the same thing for WrestleMania weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. And it's going to be a weekend, man. And I'm also going to be here on Friday night reviewing SmackDown, talking about the Hall of Fame. We're going to be up here on Thursday for predictions. All of these links on my channel right now. WrestleMania week is here. So on the menu tonight, like I said, we're going to have to talk about the CM Punk interview on MMA Hour. He got into a lot, and we'll digest it, dissect it, unpack it, whatever you want to call it. We'll get into it here. We'll talk about WrestleMania, the card, which match is happening on which nights. We'll talk about the AEW releases. We'll talk about the possibility of Bo Dallas coming back in, or the likelihood, I should say, of Bo Dallas coming back in to maybe do the Uncle Howdy gimmick, or perhaps do something to tribute his brother. And we will review tonight's spectacular Monday Night Raw. My God, it's going to be a time. So happy Monday to you. Hope you have gone to the store, picked up your Wheaties, get a lot of energy for this week, because y'all are going to need it, and you're going to see a whole lot of me. I don't currently have any videos planned for tomorrow or Wednesday, but shit, man, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a mic drop or something up there pop on the channel. Then we'll be here Thursday for the predictions, Friday for the Hall of Fame and SmackDown reviews, Saturday and Sunday for Mania watch parties and reviews, and 1 week from tonight, Raw after Mania. Let's hope WWE brings back Raw after Manias, and we get a good one 1 week from tonight. Hope you guys are having a spectacular day. Let's go to the chat here, say some hellos. I have beer in the house. I didn't put any in the fridge, so I have no cold beer. So I'm drinking one of Elizabeth's spiked lemonades, and I'm also drinking some Coca-Cola out of a Post Malone Raising Cane's cup. So I'm a multi-beverage podcast host tonight. So cheers to everyone, and happy WrestleMania week. All right, let's go to the chat here. I got some hellos to do and some super chats to answer. And then I think, well, you guys vote. I can't even do a poll. What should I talk about first? CM Punk interview with Ariel Helwani, or should we just get into Monday Night Raw? I think we might have to start with CM Punk. Let's try to hit some early channel members if we can, like Jay Lambo, there's a lot of J's. Jay Lambo, JJ Leg, and JD Jones. Whole lot of J's there. Good to see you guys. Also, Ben Espinoza's in the house. So is Mike Witt, our boy. We got Deshaun Robinson here as well. Zach Palgett is in the house, along with Zombie Fighter. Did I already get you? No, I don't think I did. Zombie Fighter, also good to see you as always. Juliet is here. The Juliet 316 drops in $2 for us. Good April Fool's joke earlier, Greg. I don't know what you're talking about, Juliet. What do you mean? What do you mean April Fool's? You mean my video today? Are you making fun of my video today? The top 10 greatest WrestleMania matches of all time? Are you making fun of the hard work I put in by calling it an April Fool's joke? It's pretty fucking rude, girl. I don't know. I might have to block you from this channel for a while. Jonathan Cantris, what's up, dude? Thank you so much. Very generous $50 drop. After all these beatdowns from the bloodline, most definitely Jay beats Jimmy, but Rock Roman pinning Cody. But Rock Roman win pinning Cody, and when Cena and Austin's theme hit in Bloodline Rules, it'll be an epic moment that caps off the Bloodline, and Cody finishes the story. We talked a lot about the possibility of Steve Austin being involved in the main event on Saturday. Some people don't think it's necessary. I can understand that aspect of it, because even though Rock and Stone Cold have history, they don't have any recent history, and that's going to be kind of a stretch since these guys have been largely cool for the past 20 years. All of a sudden, Austin's going to come back and screw over The Rock. However, they do have themselves set up here for the type of finish we saw in 1999 with Mick Foley and The Rock, or Mankind and The Rock on Raw, where you had the corporation, you had DX, and you had Austin coming out. It's like the same thing, only way bigger. This is like on a WrestleMania scale, a milestone show, main event. You have all these different things happening, and you have Austin come out. One thing I said on Saturday about Austin, would be funny if Rikishi got involved and then Austin came out on a four-wheeler and ran him over. How great would that be? But I think if Austin came out, I don't know if he should be like directly involved in the finish the way he was in 1999. He came out, hit The Rock with the chair, put Mankind on top of him. If Austin isn't going to have a program with The Rock or Roman Reigns going forward, I don't know what the point is for him to be out there unless he's just out there as an extra added bonkers addition to an already chaotic scene. And if he's just out there to, add one little cherry on top, maybe fend off a Bloodline member, maybe hits Solo with a stunner, maybe he hits The Rock with a stunner, because The Rock's not in the match. He's going to be out there fucking around. So if Austin came out to maybe neutralize The Rock, that might be fun, but then again, I don't know how you would build off of that or what the point would be. And you could have John Cena coming out too, if you wanted, but I also think you could put Cena and Austin in a different part of the show and not have them involved in night 2. I want night 2 to be bonkers, but I don't know how bonkers we want it to be. Austin showing up, however, would be quite awesome. And I'm kind of with you too, Jonathan. I think it's going to be Cody eating the pin, probably from The Rock, going into night 2. All the adversity stacked against Cody. That's a lot, because he got the shit kicked out of him last week. He got the shit whipped out of him tonight. Then he's going to go into Saturday and lose and get pinned, seemingly shattering a lot of confidence that he might have. And he's going into night 2 now with 3 consecutive beatdowns from the Bloodline. He's not 100%. And now he's going into this match against Roman Reigns with all of the cards stacked against him. So it does stand to reason that Cody, being the veteran he is and the son of Dusty Rhodes, would think a little bit further ahead and make contingency plans in the event that him and Seth Rollins don't win, because he doesn't want to just put everything on the belief that him and Seth Rollins will get it done. And then if they don't, what does he do? So he might have to have a plan B and have some people on standby. And he can explain himself. 1 week from tonight, Cody is probably going to be standing in a WWE ring with the World Championship, saying something to the effect of, I made a few phone calls, and Roman and Rock have got a lot of friends and a lot of backup, but hey, I'm no slouch either. I got a couple of people that I can also text message in a pinch, and I want to thank them for the assist last night in helping me defeat the Bloodline. Something like that we could see 1 week, just 1 week from tonight, which is pretty wild. 1 week when we are back here and we return for our next Raw review, WrestleMania will be in the rear view mirror. So that is crazy to think about. But Jonathan, thank you again for that very, very generous super chat. Mike Witt, thank you for the 5. I'm just worried the old man gets blown up in the actual match on Saturday. It's one thing to build it up now, or to build it up now, it's put up or shut up time for DJ. Well, it's a tag. It's a tag match. He's going to be protected in there because he's going to be in there with 3, regular roster members that can really carry the load. And I'm pretty sure, Rock is definitely not taking this lightly in terms of, being physically prepared. I'm sure he's working out. But then again, he's also 50 and in his 50s or something. So there's only going to be so much he can do. But I don't think The Rock's going to have to do a whole lot. The Rock might find himself in the situation at this WrestleMania that Hulk Hogan found himself in WrestleMania 18 in terms of just being older, but Rock and Hogan told a great story that night despite that. So I think Rock might have to work a little bit differently, but what does he really do other than punch and kick anyway? So I think Rock should be all right, for the tag match. And if he is going to have a one-on-one down the road with Roman Reigns, and that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But I'm not too worried about the old man, because you know what? The old man looks a lot better than many of us who are half his age. So we'll see. Actually, I'm not half The Rock's age, but some of you might be, and he might look better than you. So we got to looking good is one thing, actually being able to physically perform is another. Rock, we did see him get a little physical tonight with Cody, kind of get an idea for, his movements and mannerisms and whatnot. But I think in the tag match, he's going to be fine. I don't think he's going to do anything to risk an injury, especially since he's likely going to be so heavily involved in night number 2. So I'm going to kind of have confidence in The Rock that he'll be able to pull off a match. A passable match. That's my thing. Let me see. Who else can we say hello to? Like Victor Colon, good to see you. Joshua Aparicio, I'm trying to hit channel members. We got Ohio State Boise fan, or Ohio Boise. I can't ever do your name. You need to shorten that up. Can I just call you Carl? Your name's Carl now. Ben Espinoza, got you. Denny Downbad is here. Right on. Super Fluffy Toaster. Sup, Super Fluffy. We haven't been super fluffy up here in a while. Good to see you, man. Jay Boba 28's got $5 for us. All of the fans who were quick to judge Punk looked pretty dumb today. I know Punk isn't innocent, but a lot was cleared today. Well, I don't know if a lot was cleared today. All we heard was one side of the story. We heard Punk's perspective. I'm not going to take anything he said as absolute truth, although he did come off very genuine. And a lot of what Punk was saying, we're going to get into it. I definitely understood his frustrations. He ain't innocent and everything, but I definitely understood his frustrations from his perspective. But one side doesn't really mean anything was cleared up. But we'll be talking about it in a minute. 7th season. Appreciate the 5 from you. Imagine if Cody stacks Rock and Roman for the pin to finally win the title. Yeah, I've mentioned Cody stacking them before. I think that would be tremendous if we had some sort of a stacking of some kind of the bloodline. But Rock isn't in the Night 2 match. Roman is. So Cody could stack him in the tag, maybe. I don't know. But stacking, the funny thing is, as absurd as that sounds, you can't even really rule that out. I mean, holy shit, Cody has had, just a bunch of weeks in a row here of just being humiliated and wiped out by the bloodline. It feels like they are setting him up for some sort of superhuman victory. So we could see something like that. Thanks. I'll try to change my screen name. Yes, I prefer Carl. Carl is what I want. Max Pokebra, also good to see you and everybody else. We got Crazy J, we got Ajax, we got Brian, Shane, Ram K, Roman Stone, we got Sonic Plays, we got Mike Rouse, Shell Shock, we've got Resale Express, we got Jason Duvall, Doug Unfunny, Jacob A, Rodrigo, Brian, King Azza, Lula Twins, David, 86, my boy, good to see you. Richard Wells, the new one. Rodrigo, did I get you already? Decimania is here. Sonic Blade says, unfortunately, Cody is winning at Mania. I'm going to have to skip the main event. I can't watch Roman's title run end. Oh my God, dramatic. That's been a long run. You can't watch it end? You gonna be all right? Fucking wellness check on Sonic Plays. Shell Shock is here. I think I got you. King Azza, good to see you. Green P is here too. Anybody else that I missed? Jonelle, right on. We got so much to get into. JJ A 1987. We got more J's up in here. Look at this. J Lambo, JJ Leg, JD Jones, JJA 1987. What is it with y'all and J's? Y'all be loving the J's. Anyway, all right, let's get into stuff. Why don't we talk about CM Punk? I think we should talk about maybe CM Punk first because that was a really big deal today. CM Punk joined Ariel Helwani on MMA Hour today, and they spoke for 2 hours about everything. I mean, they really did get into just about all of it here. And I listened or watched the whole thing, and I made notes as I went through it, and I'm going to do my best to kind of touch on some of the key points that were mentioned here. I think I did miss like the final 10 minutes of the interview. I ran out of time. Raw started, so I didn't see like the final 10, but I don't know if anything, I mean, all the juicy stuff came before that. So this was interesting because I didn't know he was going to appear here. I don't recall seeing any promotion for this at all, but he appeared on MMA Hour with Ariel, and they talked a lot about everything, like I said. And I guess they kind of started by talking about how the deal came together with WWE. And he said he received, I think it was a call from Nick Khan was the first person that he was communicating with as it related to a return. And Punk said that he said something like they assumed that I had some sort of a non-compete. So he did add that once he was released or he was fired from AEW, there was no non-compete. He was ready to go right away and joked how Nick Khan said like, oh, I wish I would have known that or something. But he's like, how are you supposed to know? Am I supposed to inform you about that? So they talked about that and how it was kind of Nick Khan that was the first person to contact him. And then they kind of agreed that some conversations would be happening with Triple H. And he said Triple H FaceTimed him to talk, but it was like Thanksgiving. And he's like, dude, go be with your family or whatever, And Triple H is like, no, we need to talk because, the show's coming up this weekend. And then Punk said his lawyer had to work overtime to kind of get a deal done so he could appear at Survivor Series because originally Nick Khan had mentioned and inquired about his availability for the Royal Rumble. And then when he informed Nick Khan that he had no non-compete, they got him in at Survivor Series, and a lot of things happened, like I guess he said, like within 5 days. So he said when he got to Survivor Series, he walked into Gorilla right after he signed the contract. So there wasn't a signing of the contract after. He said WWE would have never let him do that, go out there and appear on a pay-per-view before he's contractually signed to anything. So he signed the contract there, he said, with his lawyer on the phone, and then he walked right into Gorilla, and it was like a packed elevator. There was 1 million people there, and he was getting greetings from everybody and hugs and kisses on the mouth and that type of shit. And then he went out there and did his deal. So he kind of broke down, how it all happened, him coming back into the company. And then he kind of had a feeling like it was going to happen. He brought up how WWE was kind of referencing him. People were hitting the GTS. They were saying little things in commentary. We were talking about him during Raw. Did you hear Michael Cole say this? Or did you hear Pat McAfee say that? Or whatever they were saying at the time. We were noticing that and talking about it. And Punk said, he was getting text messages and phone calls and questions from people that he knew, like, are you going back? And he's like, no, I haven't even talked to him. And he said something like, should I be tanning? Which I thought was funny. Should I be getting myself ready here if they want to use me and they're teasing me? But no conversations were had. This is all WWE. Ariel Helwani also brought up when Punk showed up to WWE in May. I think Punk mentioned it, and Ariel said, no, that was back in May. And I guess the way that came about was it was a story that we have heard before. By the way, credit to Fightful Select. A lot of what they were reporting during Punk's time of being fired by AEW to when he debuted in the company was all pretty much verified here. Pretty much everything they reported was vouched for by CM Punk. And one of those things was about the plane ride. And I guess what gave him the idea to go to the WWE show is that he happened to be on the same plane as a lot of WWE stars. And he said he was sitting there and he noticed Jason Jordan, who he did meet before way back in the FCW days, and they talked a little bit. And then he put over Liv Morgan. He said he was sleeping. He dropped his earbuds out or something, and the whole plane had emptied out. And she's on her hands and knees going under the seats trying to find his earbuds. And then he mentioned to Bayley how nice Liv Morgan was. And Bayley's like, why don't you come to the show and say hi? And so he kind of framed it like that. He's like, I'm just a wrestler, going to a show. I don't know what the big deal is. It's kind of how he was saying it. A show was in town and I went to go visit my friend Bayley. Come on, Punk. I mean, WWE's been in Chicago a lot of times since you've left the company 10 years ago. They're there 3 or 4 times a year. You choose now when you're on the outs with your current employer and you're kind of, if he's trying to act like he wasn't going there just to dip his toe in the water and test things out, he is full of shit, because that's exactly what he was doing. He wanted to go there to make an appearance to see Triple H, and he verified that it was Vince that made the call for him to leave the arena that day, but he said he saw The Miz and Bobby Lashley and Baron Corbin and Triple H and did get a brief interaction with a few people. And, he kind of brushed it off as, I'm just a guy visiting friends because the show's in my town. And that was just one of the moments. Punk had a few moments in the interview like this where you wanted to look at him and be like, how fucking dumb do you think I am? Come on. It's just, you're so full of shit, CM Punk. But I'm not mad at CM Punk. I love CM Punk, but sometimes he's just full of shit. And he's definitely full of shit about that. One of the things I loved about the interview was when they brought up Vince McMahon. And Punk did say, I think Ariel asked him, did you have any contact with Vince? And he goes, yeah. He goes, I saw him. He had to go to the HQ. He had to go to the headquarters. And they said, come on up. You do an NXT thing and we'll give you a tour of the new place. And he was down in the gym, where the gym is. And he was talking to Nick Khan on the phone. And here he is, just re-signed to WWE, and some asshole walks up to him apparently while he's in the WWE headquarters gym and says, hey, you need to get off your phone. Vince doesn't like it when people are on the phone in the gym. Fuck you, Vince McMahon. Fuck you. You fucking prick. Some shit like that, when I hear it, just makes me so mad to hear what a fucking asshole he can be. So Punk kind of rolled his eyes, like, okay, whatever, but I'm on the phone with Nick Khan. I think if there's one guy I can be allowed to be on the phone with in WWE's gym, in Vince's gym, it's Nick Khan. So that was fucking ridiculous. But then a few minutes later, he said Vince came in. Vince showed up there to do his daily workout in the gym, and they saw each other. They gave each other a hug. Vince said, when you're done doing whatever, let's reconnect. And Punk said that was the last time he saw him. And then Ariel Helwani was like, well, why was that the last time you saw him? And Punk's like, well, he kind of had a few things come up. Which is really funny. And then they went into the allegations, the Vince allegations. And one of the things that Punk said was that he didn't really read the allegations. He read the text messages. The text messages tell you all the story that you need to know. And when he read that, he's like, what can you say about Vince McMahon? I don't know why everybody tap dances around these questions. Vince's behavior is indefensible. Unless you're one of the biggest assholes fucking walking on social media, and there's a bunch of fucking pricks, especially on that Twitter app that everybody loves so much. There's a bunch of dickwads on there that praise Vince McMahon for his behavior because they're morally bankrupt sacks of shit that live, in their grandmother's basement, not even their mom's basement, their grandmother's basement. But regular people, who hear these allegations, read the lawsuit, read the text messages, it's indefensible. That's the best word I've heard used from a person who worked for Vince McMahon to describe Vince McMahon. Indefensible. You cannot defend in any way what he did, no matter how much you try to twist your own head up your own ass. There's no defending this. And the allegations and the text messages, he said what I said when we were talking about all this stuff when it first broke. How dumb is Vince McMahon? He said, if anything, I was shocked that Vince McMahon would be so stupid to leave a paper trail, to leave a trail of this behavior. I haven't read the new information that came out today. Something about a love letter. I have not gotten that far yet. Haven't read it. We'll talk about it on the podcast no, we won't. No podcast Saturday. We're going to be watching WrestleMania. We'll talk about it sometime, maybe Thursday for the predictions. So new info is out on that too. But, Punk basically, I think, responded to the Vince stuff in the best way a talent can. And he didn't seem too afraid of what he was going to say, just indefensible. It's disgusting fucking behavior. And then he brought up a weird comparison. He brought up Chris Benoit and he said, the Benoit murders. And he goes, I knew Chris. I traveled with Chris. And I'm pretty sure they were supposed to have a pay-per-view match the night that Benoit didn't show up. And then those murders were taking place. And he talked about how, he knew Chris and some of the weird behavior. And he mentioned something about seeing Benoit's son putting on the wrist tape and the X's on his hands or whatnot. And then when he finds out what Benoit did, knowing and then starting to think about all of his interactions with Benoit and how he was, it kind of tracks, it kind of checks out. Okay, makes a lot of sense, that he'd be, now that I'm putting all this together. And I guess that's kind of what he was referring to with Vince McMahon, is that Ariel asked him if he was aware of Vince's behavior. And he goes, no, I didn't know of specifics, but we all know that Vince is a strange person. So when you hear these things and you read it all, yeah, obviously it's shocking. But when you think about who's doing it, now that I think about it, it's not that shocking, type of thing. So I really liked, what Punk said about Vince McMahon. They also talked about All In. They talked about AEW All In last year in London, and they talked all about this and what happened there, the fight, and what happened afterwards. And Punk started with talking about the story, how no one was there to pick him up. So we heard about that as well. Nobody was at the airport to pick him up. And one thing I liked about Punk, one thing I liked that Punk said here is that he goes, nobody was there to pick me up. No big deal. He goes, I got on the train or whatever he took to get to the arena. And he's like, I got a lot of criticism from fans. Oh, Punk's whining. Oh, just take an Uber, you baby. He goes, I didn't say a fucking word. He goes, I did not say a fucking word about the company not picking me up. But I was on the train and fans saw me and they took pictures of me. And so the story got out. He goes, I never once complained. I never even once talked about it. Didn't say a fucking word about it. And the internet decided something was true and ran with it. Or people giving him flack for just not taking an Uber. Oh, stop complaining. He's like, I wasn't. I wasn't complaining. I wasn't even mad. I just went to the show. No big deal. I worked it out. I'm a fucking adult. Something happens and you just have to make alternate arrangements. It's called adulting, and having a working, functioning fucking brain. So not a big deal. And then Ariel brought up the Jack Perry glass spot, and Punk he's like, well, I wouldn't have come on the show. I knew you were going to ask me this stuff, so I can't act upset about it. But he brings up an NDA, but apparently there isn't an NDA in place for All In. There's an NDA in place for Brawl Out the previous year. That whole thing, the dog Larry and the Kenny and the biting and all of that, the muffins, all that there's an NDA for, but not for All In. So Punk said he didn't really want to relitigate it, but it wound up happening anyway. And he said that he talked about how when he came back, Tony had this idea of separate shows and separating the talent. And Punk, that was one of the first times where Punk said, why don't you just let me go? They don't want me here. And one of the glaring things about AEW that Punk brought up a couple of times was how, at the end of the day, and let me preface this by saying, I think people with unstable, unbalanced, obsessive hate for Tony Khan are the worst, lowest scum common denominator in the wrestling community. If you are one of those people, I just want you to know I have no respect for you at all, at all, at all. You're fucking disgusting. That being said, that does not mean Tony Khan doesn't have faults. And one of the things I've always said about Tony Khan is he is a terrible leader. He's just a terrible leader. Some guys just don't have it in him. He's not inept, incompetent, dumb or stupid or a clown or any of that stuff. He's not good at being a leader of a wrestling promotion. Could you be all the people that complain about Tony Khan? What do you do for a living? What do you do? I see people who've been bitching about Tony Khan for years with 900 subscribers on their YouTube channel. Haven't gained a fucking subscriber. Haven't gained one Twitter follower, no subscribers, no improvement of their own business or life based on the Tony Khan obsessive hate. It's the obsessive hate that I reject, but not the criticisms. The criticisms of Tony Khan are valid. And the criticisms of Tony Khan, and Punk brought it up a few times, how that he's just kind of a chicken shit. He doesn't take care of situations. And Punk's frustration here felt like it echoed ours. Remember when it was in between the brawl out after the Muffins, Punk got hurt, he's rehabbing, and we're thinking, okay, the injury was a blessing in disguise. The injury will give Punk time away, allow the heat to cool off, the dust to settle. Tony Khan can step up as a boss, get all of the parties in a room and hash it the fuck out. And he never did. Because he's too nice of a guy. CM Punk said he's a terrible boss, but he's a nice guy. And I think Tony Khan tries too much to be a nice guy. He has personal relationships with his talent, which you're going to have. Vince McMahon had that. Bischoff had that. All the promoters have had that. Not rare, but at the same time, when you try to be friends with everybody and then those people start battling with each other, then you're forced to pick sides, or then you're forced to pull up your big boy britches and become a boss and actually do something about situations. Maybe Tony Khan needs to hire somebody just to handle it. Maybe I'm going to be Tony Khan, just going to be like, I'm going to give myself a self-demotion, and I'm just going to run creative, and I need to hire a hard-nosed crazy person to really run the ship and deal with people. But how can that be? Because there's always Tony Khan. So if you do have somebody in charge that's in charge of disciplining you, who's to say that talent can just go behind that guy's back and then talk to Tony Khan, and it just causes problems. So that is a problem. That is a big problem in AEW. It doesn't sound like Tony Khan he's just not that type of personality. Neither am I. Even when I'm at work, and I'm in a position of authority, I'm not Vince McMahon yelling and screaming. I actually do like to try to get along with everybody, but I'm not a pushover. When something happens and it's time to get serious, I can do that. I don't know if Tony Khan can. He sounds like he really just wants to avoid confrontation at all cost. He's easy to walk over or push over sometimes, and I don't think he needs to be like that. He needs to lead with an iron fist, so to speak. And because this is the type of stuff that can really dissect and destroy your locker room, and everybody's, kind of picking sides and nobody really respects the boss. I'm sure there's a respect for Tony Khan. I mean, the dude's a billionaire, and he's their boss and he owns the company and whatnot. But, Vince McMahon always came off as intimidating. And I'm not saying Vince McMahon was right. The way he ran the company was right. I'm not at all. I'm fucking posturing alpha male stuff. I'll go fuck off. There's an in-between there. You don't want to be a pussy pushover little bitch, but you don't want to be a fucking madman who's shitting in women's hair either. There's got to be an in-between. And Tony Khan is so far down below where he needs to be based on everything we've heard anyway, in terms of just being a boss that the talent knows not to cross. That's a big thing, because Tony Khan does not seem like that. You don't get that vibe from him in AEW. You don't get that vibe from the talent that whatever you do what the boss says, and it just doesn't seem like he's got that respect, and he needs to get that somehow. And like I said, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if you can just go hire a Bill Watts or an Ole Anderson or somebody like that to come in, because every time a promoter has tried that before, it hasn't worked, because there's still going to be too much, you can't give somebody all the authority And then what if that person does something that that person's boss doesn't agree with? And Tony Khan's like, then Tony Khan's got to veto it. So I don't know. I don't work in AEW. I don't work in big giant companies. So I don't know what the correct way to fix these things are. But one thing I will say that AEW is doing is they have made some really solid behind the scenes hires, for, the talent relations and production and creative and things like that. So they are working a lot of those problem areas out. There's just the big glaring one. The person at the top is not respected. The person at the top does not strike fear into any of his talent. And I'm not saying you need to strike fear into people, but there's got to be some sort of Tony Khan has got to stop being everybody's friend. There's way too much money involved here. That was part of Eric Bischoff's problem. Hung out in Hogan and the NWO's trailer and drank beer all day. He wanted to be one of the boys. You could tell. He was out there smiling, jizzing in his fucking pants when he's out there with the NWO. Look at me. I'm one of the boys. Big white teeth. And we used to all criticize him for that. Don't do that. You're the boss. You look like a fucking clown doing this. And now this same guy is throwing shade at Tony Khan for doing things that he was a much bigger offender of. But Tony Khan isn't trying to be one of the boys. I think he's just trying to be too friendly. He's trying to be too nice. And this was something that was brought up or felt like CM Punk mentioned or indirectly mentioned several times throughout the interview. So that right there goes to show you that if AEW ever wants to really, really turn the corner, Tony Khan has to have a better control over things. And maybe that's in the process of happening right now. It might be because I think the ratings are going to have to decline before they go up. And just like when a team rebuilds, I feel like AEW is kind of doing that right now because despite the low ratings, the quarter full arenas and whatnot, I like Dynamite. I thought Dynamite was a fucking solid show. Dynasty looks badass on paper. So they got it there. It's still there. It's just Punk, you could tell that he didn't have just a whole lot of respect for how the company is ran. He didn't even think it's a real business because of some of these things. And he might not be wrong. I don't really think he is. I mean, I think he brings up a lot of good points there about Tony Khan, especially with that all out stuff and how he even said, I wanted to get in a room and hash things out, but we never did. Tony Khan just never stepped up. And I feel like before Punk even returned to Collision, they should have already had this hashed out. But Tony Khan felt it would be better to separate the rosters, to spare everybody's feelings and to spare confrontations. And that's just fucking idiotic. And CM Punk thought so. But the all-in stuff was interesting because that's what they kind of dove into here. So CM Punk talked about how the all-in fight came to be. And of course, we know that this was all sparked by the glass spot from Jack Perry. Now, I guess what happened is that Punk was at a Collision and Tony Schiavone approached him in catering and was like, look, I need your help with Jack Perry. He's cussing people out over, this glass spot he wants to do with a rental car. And Punk, is kind of apprehensive at first, but, this is part of his job as well. His other job. And he basically didn't really want to go do it, but he did. And then he approached Jack and he goes, I was nice to Jack Perry because I like Jack Perry. And I guess he wanted to break a window on a rental car. And then Punk is trying to explain why this would be a bad idea. And then you're going to take a rental car back. But WWE fucks up rental cars all the time. I thought this company just paid for it or whatever. But, he's like, you fuck up rental cars, that can cause problems for the companies to say, hey, don't rent to professional wrestlers. These are things that have happened before. And on top of that, he mentioned something about Canada. And I don't remember what that was about, but I do remember about some sort of accusation that maybe Jack Perry was doing this so he wouldn't have to fly to Canada. I don't know if he was trying to purposely injure himself so he wouldn't have to go. I don't know if that's what he's referring to here. So when Punk tells Jack no on smashing the rental car window, and he says, everyone told you no. If you want to do that, go do that stuff on Wednesday. And that's kind of when he alluded to Jack not wanting to fly back to Canada. And he goes, I didn't want to go there either. Traveling sucks and whatnot. And then Ariel asked him where he was when Jack hit the window and said, look, real glass, cry me a river. And he said he was in his locker room. He said he was in the locker room and he heard it. And then he came out for his match that was up next, and he told Tony Khan to handle it. He goes, I told Tony, handle it or I will handle it. And of course, Tony Khan doesn't really like to handle things, does he? Because he didn't handle the brawl out shit. So what made CM Punk think he was going to handle this right in the middle of being, at the gorilla position in your biggest pay-per-view with the biggest attendance you've ever had? Do you have time to discipline fucking Jungle Boy right now? Probably not. So Punk, I guess, did not like that Tony Khan didn't immediately handle it. And then he had a confrontation with Jack Perry, and Jack said something to the effect of do something about it, and Punk just kind of laughed. He goes, do something about it, I'd fucking kill you, And Punk, honestly, he probably would. Punk might have gotten embarrassed in the octagon in UFC, but I think Punk would beat Jack Perry in a fight for the same reason that the worst NFL team will beat the best college team. There's just a difference there, So, if these guys really got in a fight, I think Punk would be winning it. And I think he did win this. And Ariel said, were there any punches thrown? He goes, nah, I just choked him a little bit. I popped. I'm sorry. I mean, I know he's kind of gotten a lot of flack online for that today. I saw people mentioning that line. Oh, that was deranged. And that was really crazy to say. I might be the only person that laughed. Just the way he was. He goes, I choked him a little bit. I'm trying to find the fun in this, I'm trying my best. So that actually kind of made me laugh. And then he said after that, he told Tony Khan that he quits and he called him a clown. And then he went back to his locker room and he said that Samoa Joe and Jerry Lynn came and got him and said, come on, let's put it behind you. Let's go out there and tear it up. And he said, and you can watch it back. We had a feeling even that night, remember? Because he said here, he confirmed that he knew going into that match that was going to be the last time he was going to wrestle in AEW. That was going to be the last time he would wrestle Samoa Joe. And Helwani was like, well, why did you do it? He goes, because I did it for them. I did it for Joe. I did it for Jerry Lynn. I did it for everybody else back there, that works really hard, that I have no issue with at all. I had to go out there and at least be a professional, but he knew the whole time. And you could tell, even when he came out, because we didn't know. I think the match had just started when Sean Ross Sapp had tweeted something about the confrontation. So when you watch it back, the way he just kind of slowly walks out, he does a slow little CM Punk turn, very, very slow twirl. And there's an energy about him, and now knowing in hindsight what happened, looking at that, it's like, oh, wow, that had just freshly happened. And then he went out and had the match with Joe. And even when he was leaving, he has the title behind him and he's putting up the number 1 and all of that. So that was his goodbye. He talked about going to the back after the match. And the Security Sam, showed up and kind of asked him what his plans were for the rest of the night. And he goes, would it be easier if I left? And Sam kind of was like, you're not being forced to leave, but yeah, it would kind of make my job easier if you did leave. And so then Punk left and bought the talent some food from a local establishment there, and they all had a good time back at the hotel, and that was it. So he was gone from AEW from that moment, and he said he has had no contact at all with Tony Khan since All In. So there wasn't a phone call, there wasn't anything, not even a phone call to explain why he's being let go or anything like that. And Ariel asked Punk about the comment about Tony Khan fearing for his life. And Punk just kind of shrugged it off. He goes, I never did anything that should make him fearful for his life. I was pissed. I was angry. I went after Jack Perry and I told him to fix it. And I called him a clown and I quit, but I didn't do anything to threaten his life or to make his life feel threatened. And he said, Tony Khan is not a boss. He's just a nice guy. And then they shifted their focus to Hangman Page and started talking about that. And Helwani brought up, of course, the workers' rights promo and all of that, and Punk tried to explain his side of it, and we're going way back now. We're going back before Brawl Out. And Punk said it wasn't so much the lie, it wasn't so much what Hangman Page said. He said, it's about just being professional. And when you have two guys, taking up very valuable TV time and you're backstage and you're hammering out your promo about what's going to be said, and then one of those people goes out and says something completely different than what was discussed, that was what pissed him off. It wasn't what he said. It was that he spent so much time hammering out a promo and then Page went completely off script. So he says, he confirmed that this is all because there are members of the elite who thought I got a friend fired who wasn't fired. And of course, we know he's talking about Colt Cabana. Ariel Helwani later on asked him if fences could ever be mended with Colt Cabana. He said probably not. He said Colt tried to approach him when he first came to AEW, and Punk said he doesn't really feel comfortable talking to him without a lawyer. So that situation is no better to being resolved and probably never will be. And he admits that he can't talk about Brawl Out. He said there is an NDA in place for that, but that he also has nothing to hide. And he kind of referenced the fact that the NDA is kind of in place for somebody else's benefit, and that he has nothing to hide, and, it's not, a big deal, but he can't talk specifically about that fight that night after the scrum. And talked about how he kind of lost his temper that night at the scrum, and how scrums are stupid, and and how you got all these people with a Twitter profile, and they think they're media, and they go there, and that does happen. There are legitimate members of the wrestling media who do attend these scrums and ask questions, and there are people that just have a moderate Twitter following and don't do shit else. There's a couple of people that I follow that I like, totally nice people, totally some nice men and women, but they don't do shit. All they do is have a Twitter account, and then they go and ask questions of these things. I don't understand, but it's what happens. So Punk said that, he goes there and then he sees, these people, running with stories or asking about stories that aren't even true. And, he kind of lost his temper, and that's how everything kind of boiled over. And he does kind of regret a lot of that, but, that was just the ornery mood he was in that night. And he talked about, AEW's business model, and he did bring up a good point. If you're happier about some goof on the internet saying you had a 5-star match than you are about, the building being a quarter full or whatever, we're not in the same business. So he's definitely in, has a better maybe business mentality than a lot of these guys, but at the same time, Punk doesn't mind disrupting things either when things don't go his way. So he ain't completely innocent here. He basically says he has friends there. He doesn't regret his time there because he was able to meet Brody King, who he's friends with to this day. He likes Darby and FTR and Sting and a lot of guys there who he gets along with and considers friends, and he doesn't regret his time there. He doesn't regret coming back to wrestling at all. So that's kind of good. And they brought up also when he came back to, or not came back, but worked the Fox deal for the WWE Backstage show, and how he was close to coming back a couple of times. He said real close. We were real close to coming back, or I was, to the WWE prior to the pandemic. And then the Backstage deal happened, and then, kind of everything, I guess, just evaporated away, and he wound up going to AEW after all. He did confirm and says that he currently has a great relationship with Triple H. It's a lot different than it used to be. He said he's still pretty weirded out by people calling him Paul, because when he hears Paul, he thinks Paul Heyman. So he still calls Triple H or Hunter, where now most of the talent is starting to call him Paul. So he definitely notices that difference from when he was here before. And he also confirmed that he did have 2 contracts with AEW. One is like a Tony Khan consultant, and the other is a talent. And it was a very insightful interview. I mean, it really was. Like I said, it lasted 2 hours. I tried to watch as much of it as possible and make as many notes on it as I could, but it was juicy, man. I would put this up there with 10 years ago when he did the Colt Cabana podcast and spilled a lot of what we were wondering for months. Months and months went by. We had no idea what really happened and why he left. And then when he just unloaded on WWE on that podcast, in a much more aggressive, harsh, bitter way, this feels like that. He wasn't as bitter or harsh this time. He's in a great spot. He got the last laugh at the end of the day. He's in WWE, making a ton of money, killing it there. Would have been in the WrestleMania main event this year on night 1, had he not gotten injured, and is going to be a big part of things moving forward. He seems, at peace in his head. He even brought up what I've said about him being on his best behavior, and he insists, he goes, I don't want to be there to ruffle anybody's feathers or take away from anybody. I want to be here to contribute and add to everything and make this thing grow and be part of the team. And I think that's really what he intended in AEW. And he said, he goes, it wasn't what they sold me on. When I got there, I realized that it wasn't how they sold it, and it wasn't what I thought in terms of how the business is run, their business model, how they run things, and how Tony Khan, sees his company and whatnot. And it feels like it's a combination of a lot of bad feelings and bitterness, but a lot of closure. CM Punk doesn't seem like somebody that, because he said a couple of times in the interview, he goes, I don't care what you believe. Just leave me the fuck alone. He's always kind of been like that. He goes, I do not care what some jackoff who I'll never even know exists thinks of me. do not care. Just don't bother me. Just fucking leave me alone. And I feel that way sometimes too. You know, if I ever get haters on the channel, I'm like, don't care. I really don't. I've been doing this a long time. Got a great family of listeners here. We love talking about wrestling. I'm not going to let one hater come in and cause any problems. I don't give a shit if you don't like me. And CM Punk is, you know, kind of like that. Just believe whatever you want, you know, just don't be stupid. And now that he's in WWE, he feels pretty much at peace. He had an excellent kind of demeanor throughout the, you know, throughout the interview. And even though I didn't really agree with everything he said, he came off better in this one than he did in Colt Cabana's. Now, Colt Cabana's we all loved because a lot of us were fed up with WWE at the time. They were spoon feeding us a whole bunch of shit. And we were frustrated. We were annoyed with the company. We were annoyed with Vince and the creative direction and John Cena and all that stuff. So when CM Punk is just raking WWE over the coals, you know, we're all beaten off over it. And so I think if you're an AEW hater, you did a lot of beating off today. Probably got jizz on your eyes and your hair and shit. Wipe off your walls. But he wasn't as hard and direct. You know, he was honest. He sounded more honest. Even though I didn't believe a couple things he said, he sounded more honest than maybe he was in the WWE one. Because I think in the WWE podcast with Colt, it was a lot of sour grapes. And this is just mildly sour grapes. Maybe a little bit of sour grapes. But in the end, like I said, he has the last laugh. And he probably is, at the end of the day, in the better place for him in terms of, you know, cementing his career as one of the greats. If he can finish strong here with WWE, he will do that. So I enjoyed the interview. I really did. I watched a little bit of the Becky and Rhea stuff. I thought that was dumb after we had so much deep shit get into with Punk and AEW and WWE, and then try to do a kayfabe little thing with Becky and Rhea. It's stupid, but I did enjoy the Punk sit down. That was really, really good stuff. And I'm sure we'll talk more about it as the week goes on, but I think quote of the interview for sure was, I just choked him a little. I think I'm going to say that every day, like just about everything. I just choked him a little. I want to go find all different pictures of wrestlers choking other wrestlers and put that tagline on it. My God, good stuff. But anyway, I just rambled for about 40 minutes about CM Punk. So I'm going to go back to the chat here, see what you guys have to say about this, knock out these super chats, and then we just have two more little tidbits to get into, and we can finally start talking about Monday Night Raw. Won't that be nice? Let's see where we left off here on the supers. Let's hit Fox Star Killer. Thank you for all pro sports are rigged. You changed it. I was like, who's this guy? It's you. Thank you, Carl. Appreciate that. That's a much easier name to read. That other shit was driving me nuts. Fox Star Killer, you got 5 for us. Welcome back, my friend. Taking a break from the Monday Night Wars on the network now after the end of an era at Fully Loaded 99. Loved the video today. Yeah, I want to say I was at the Go Home. No, I wasn't at the Go Home Fully Loaded Raw. I was at the Raw after. Oh yeah, it was the Raw that set up the First Blood match. Vince was on the stage and he proposed the First Blood match. That was a Raw taping in Fayetteville. And I'm pretty sure that was the same taping where the Hardy Boys won the tag team titles when they were still with Michael Hayes. Briefly, I think they beat the APA that night. But yeah, I was at a few of those shows leading up to Fully Loaded, and that was a fun time. I like Fully Loaded 99, maybe a little better than Fully Loaded 98, and Fully Loaded 2000 is a tremendous one. So one more year, you're going to find some good stuff. Fox Star Killer, and thank you for all of the love on today's top 10 greatest WrestleMania matches video. Alexander Fitzgerald has got $10 for us. The Colt Cabana stuff shows how immature Punk is. Cabana wanted to talk things out, but Punk decided to air out all of the issues for the world to hear and act like he was wrong is messed up. Now, okay, I might have not been able to hear all of the Cabana stuff. That might have been what I missed today. I did, I watched most of the interview. A couple of tidbits I got from a transcript, and that Punk and that Cabana stuff was one of them. So I did not hear what he said about Colt Cabana, but it didn't seem like it was really that over the top. You know, I agree with you that Punk, I don't even know if I'd label it immaturity, but there is something about him that once you have wronged him, or once he, right or wrong, feels betrayed, whether he's justified in that belief or not, it feels like it's really hard to win back his trust. and he's really quick to cut people out of his lives over nothing or over something small or seemingly small. And some of these relationships can be decades long. And then one thing that happens, I mean, I've got friends that I've had for 20 years. If there's a misunderstanding, I'm not going to cut them out of my life. I'd like to think we could move past that. And that just never seems like it's really an option with CM Punk for whatever reason. So in terms of, we don't know the full story between Colt Cabana and CM Punk. From all accounts, Colt Cabana is a super nice human being. I have never heard anything at all, even close to a negative comment about Colt Cabana in my life, other than out of the mouth of CM Punk. So, but then again, I don't know Colt Cabana. I only sort of know his work, from the Ring of Honor days and AEW and some of the other places he's been. And of course, his podcast, he seems like a cool dude and well-liked and whatnot. But, Punk and him had some sort of an issue, and it had to do with that lawsuit. So, at the end of the day, I don't want to take sides in it because without knowing the whole story, but if we hear things about that lawsuit, I mean, I personally believe that CM Punk should have covered all legal costs for that trial. He didn't feel that way, and he had his reasons, and maybe they're valid. I just don't really know. But in terms of what Punk said about Cabana, immature, I don't know. I'd like to think that Punk is beyond the age of being immature, but you can definitely tell that, he still wants to maybe throw a jab or shade every now and then. But I also feel like I missed the last little chunk of that interview and I didn't hear all the Colt Cabana stuff. So I don't want to comment too hard on it. But a lot of people are going to have that opinion after hearing the interview, and that's totally fine. Mike Witt, appreciate the 5 from you. Seems like a lot of heels went over tonight. Rock, Roman, Gunther, Cody pins. Rock, Roman, Gunther, Rock pins Cody on Saturday. Cena takes Solo Sunday. Austin takes out The Rock Sunday. Yeah, something like that is definitely possible. We've been talking about it. We've got J&M Bespoke Travel dropping 10 in for us. Clash at the Castle 2024. Really, rally. Can't wait. That graphic has Scotland written all over it. I can't wait. I did see it. Clash at the Castle's coming up. They're going to announce the date and venue tomorrow, I believe, on the website or social media or somewhere. And it does look like it's going to be Scotland. So, shit, Drew McIntyre is going to have a big match on that show. Maybe that's where he wins. Okay, without knowing anything, okay? Here's a prediction. Drew McIntyre does not beat Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. Seth retains, or Damian Priest cashes in. Damian Priest we've spent too much time talking about Priest. I'm not going to get into that tonight, but I think Drew McIntyre won't win the title at WrestleMania. Seth can retain, Priest can cash in, whatever the case may be, McIntyre doesn't win. Probably because of CM Punk. Then McIntyre maybe gets a match at Clash at the Castle and he wins there, giving him that moment, giving him that main event victory in a stadium show. He's not going to get that at WrestleMania. He'll get the victory in a stadium show, but not a main event. So a main event championship victory stadium show in Scotland would be great for Drew McIntyre. And then boom, it's McIntyre and Punk for the title at SummerSlam. That would be a good way to do it. So we will see. We will see. Chris Ludeck's in the house. I've been in Tony's spot as a manager where I tried to be a friend, first boss, second. It took me time. I cannot read. First boss, second. It took me time to get comfortable with confrontation, but now I feel I may be too confrontational. Yeah, I've gone through all different phases of that myself. Back when I was younger and I first started, got my first couple of promotions and started managing, I screamed at like a whole group of 20 people one time. I cut a promo on them for just sucking, and now seeing myself do that, I can never even imagine. I'm so beyond that now, and just getting older and, the green gimmick kind of helps out with that stuff too. And I find myself doing my job, doing what's done, but not letting shit bother me. Pick my battles. It's something I've always lived by. Pick your battles. Something wrestling fans have a really hard time doing. Because they want to fucking die on every fucking hill. And I'm like, that's idiotic. What the fuck? Pick your battles. Don't waste your time with stupid stuff. And just I lead by example. If you're in any sort of position of authority, lead by example. Don't be a pushover. Make people respect you. And don't be a tyrant. Don't be lazy, because if you're lazy, they're just going to be lazy. And that's why, if there's, if something needs to be done at the restaurant, I will do it myself before I'll go search out a busboy to do it. You know what I mean? It's that type of stuff. And I remember working at a restaurant one time, and a table was sitting there. I was a waiter in the restaurant, and a table made a huge mess. There was like a mom and dad and 2 kids, and kids had shit everywhere, and they left, and the high chair is a mess, and there's milk spilled, and there's fucking cereal on the floor, because all parents give their kids cereal in plastic baggies. You've seen it. And they just made a complete mess of the table. And I'm sitting there, and the manager at the time, this lazy woman, she is going up the stairs, down the stairs, in the back of the building, through the building. 10 minutes, she's doing laps around the building. Finally, I'm like, what are you looking for? Who are you looking for? She goes, I'm looking for the Jose, the busboy, so he can come clean that table. I'm like, you could have cleaned this table and had it already reset up and had 10 minutes left to spare if you just would have done it yourself. And that's the type of stuff that I don't respect when it comes to workers. You know, even if it's technically not your job, get your ass in there and do it anyway. It doesn't matter. You know, lead by example. Show the staff that you will get your hands dirty too when it's necessary. But she was just too good for that. Then she pranced her little ass around the restaurant looking for a busboy to do something that she could have easily done in 2.5 minutes. It's ridiculous. Chris, I think you're a good boss. We've got Mike Witt with 5 more. I may be way out there in my thinking, but Dustin has been commenting on Cody and Rock a lot lately. It would be fun to have a Rhodes bloodline. I don't know if we're going to get a Rhodes bloodline faction or anything in WWE, but I'm kind of holding out hope that maybe a friendly little phone call can be placed to AEW. Can I speak to Mr. Khan, please? Hey, Tony. Can you let Dustin appear for 5 seconds on camera? It'd be awesome. Can you just let him, you know, at this point, what does Tony even have to lose? If anything, it's free publicity for AEW. One of the AEW stars was featured in the main event of WrestleMania. You know, maybe it's something that he's like, you know, at this point, fuck it, just do it. I don't know. Who knows what Tony Khan's mentality is? I did see a lot of people tweeting today, take his phone away. I don't know how Tony Khan's feeling about that CM Punk interview, but I haven't seen him, you know, lose his mind on social media. So if he does, let me know. We'll read his tweets live in real time. Mike Witt's got 5 more. Even before the Punk situation, there was a particular reason why Cody left. Cody never said why he left. There's obviously some leadership issues. Yeah, Cody is a professional. He's never really divulged that information as to why he opted to leave, but I think it's pretty clear that it was probably a lot of the same, or at least related to some of what CM Punk was talking about, how he just, you know, maybe just does not see that as a viable business, as a true, you know, competitor to WWE. Because that's, Punk said it in the interview. He goes, I was sold on it being I was really bought into it being a alternative. And I was too. That's what I've always wanted. And Punk was like, I'm sad because we're running out of time. You know, this is like one of our last chances to actually have a real viable alternative. But he's talking as if AEW is, you know, non-existent. They're still existent. And despite their low ratings, guess what? They're still going to get that rights deal. I know there's a lot of talk about it, about a new TV rights deal and an increase in fees and all of that. And we haven't seen this deal materialize. And a lot of the haters are getting a very large erect boner over the possibility in their own mind that they're not going to get a deal. Sorry, Junior, they are. Even with the shittiest ratings, even with the shitty ratings they had, what did they pull on Wednesday? 740-something thousand, right? That's pretty bad. It was still number 3 on cable. That tells you all you need to know. They will be renewed. Speaking of AEW, there are some releases going on in the company today, ongoing as we speak. First time we've heard of a batch of AEW releases. Here's who has been let go. The Boys, Dasha, Jose the Assistant, Jorah Joel, I have no idea who that is, Anthony Henry, Gravity, Stu Grayson, Parker Boudreaux, and Slim J. That's a shame. Wish all of them the best. We're used to this from WWE, not so used to it from AEW. As a matter of fact, everything that we've heard from Tony Khan so far up to this point, he's been pretty adamant that he wants wrestlers to finish out their contracts. What changed? Because if that was your stance, then you don't have a whole lot of reason to not let go people like Malachi Black and Miro. And maybe this is what's setting up for it here. You know, because that's a change in philosophies. He's been adamant. He's been saying, I want people to finish out their contracts. We want to see contracts through. Well, that's clearly not the case anymore. Obviously, these are budget cuts. These are cuts that normally would need to happen. But when you've already gone out of your way, and this might be one of the maturity factors that that is a burden to Tony Khan is that sometimes he might just say things out of emotion without realizing that down the line situations may change. And this is probably one of those things. It's probably what's in his best interest to shut his fucking mouth about that. If he wants to have this belief inside of him that he wants to see contracts out, then good. Have that personal philosophy, but maybe not advertise that philosophy, because now that you're cutting a whole chunk of people, granted, these are useless talent that you're not really doing much with, and, can save the company some money by letting them go, sure. But that's not the way you've done business previously. So I'm curious if we're going to see any more names, or tonight, since I've been talking, if any more names have been announced. Because when you release a bunch of people and then there are people in the company that have asked for their release that want out, that Tony Khan has used this reason for not releasing them because he likes to see contracts out. Well, now if he's cutting people and that's no longer his philosophy, and you got Malachi and Miro and anybody else coming, hey, can I be out of my contract? Now he's just going to say no for spite or whatever other reason. But I think if anybody who's not currently being used or featured or has any sort of big spot in your card at all and hasn't been used for weeks or months and they ask for the release, I think Tony Khan should give it to them. So this, in a weird way, it's always sad to see people lose their jobs. We wish everybody the best here, in finding work and getting bookings. There's never been a good time to get bookings in wrestling. Indie wrestling's still thriving. They can get work. But this could be maybe a good sign that if this philosophy of insisting that contracts are seen through is done, then maybe releases are going to be a little bit more frequent. And maybe Tony Khan is realizing some of the problems, and they want to maybe start focusing on what they've got and trim some of the fat, and get ready for what is hopefully a new TV deal, and kind of, go through their little rebuilding phase here and cutting some talent and making some changes. Maybe that's what's going on. We don't know. So we'll see if that story progresses anymore. And if tomorrow we might get some more names, we don't know. And like I said, not much to talk about here, but the other news tidbit I wanted to get into was regarding that Bray Wyatt documentary that was released today. I've not watched it yet. I'll watch it tonight or tomorrow, probably tomorrow. And at the end of that, they hinted to a potential maybe Uncle Howdy return. And we do know that Bo Dallas has been under contract since 2022. He was the one under the Uncle Howdy shit when they brought Bray Wyatt back. And he was all set to come back, and now, Bray passed away, and it sounds like Bo Dallas is going to be returning to the company. Fightful Select had a write-up on this today where they did confirm this. Their sources in WWE say, yes, that was done on purpose. That was a direct reference to Bo Dallas' eventual debut, perhaps in this Uncle Howdy gimmick or some sort of a gimmick that's going to be attributed to his brother, and that's going to be really interesting. This is kind of a first. Bray Wyatt passing away and now Bo Dallas coming in to, maybe pick up maybe where he left off or try to, he's going to be in the, Mark Briscoe, role or something. I don't know how that's going to work, but I'm intrigued by it. I really am. So we'll see what their plans are for Bo Dallas. And maybe this is something we start seeing come together immediately following WrestleMania. You know how Mankind debuted after WrestleMania 12? Maybe we get Bo Dallas showing up 1 week from tonight, or maybe that's something that's still a few months off. All right, before we get into, we're going to do that at the end. We're not going to do this now. We're going to get into the Mania card at the end. Today and tonight on Raw, WWE did announce the matches for WrestleMania night 1 and 2. So we know which matches are happening on Saturday, and we know which matches are happening on Sunday. We will get into that in just 1 second, but I want to hit these other supers because it's never ending. There we go. Did I get that one? Got that one. Foxstar Killer has got 5 more. You're welcome. I wanted to super thanks my ranking of the Rock and Austin trilogy in the comments of that video, but work and other things got in the way. No problem, dude. Oh yeah, man, Denny. I wish you could have seen me, man. Cutting a pro. I was wearing a tie and everything. It was ridiculous. Wish somebody had recorded that. Chris Ludek, but I had an intense boss back then. He would scream and yell. So I was just kind of learning from him. And then I quickly learned that's no way to live. It's no way to live screaming and yelling every day. It's fucking stupid. Don't do it. Chris Ludek, appreciate the $5, man. Thanks, Greg. I appreciate that. I honestly have a little CM Punk in me because I can be a hothead and I'm not afraid to fight and too stubborn to back down. Well, that'll pass as you get older. Once you get my age, I'll try to avoid a fight where, before I'm like, no, fuck that guy or something. So I think it's just all about, managing, your emotions. And I've always believed that anger is for amateurs. When I think about myself yelling and screaming back in those days to that staff, it makes me cringe. They took me seriously, but it's like, man, it's not how I govern now. Now I have a completely different approach. Now my experience is what gives me the proper respect. He's old man Greg. He's been doing this longer than any of us were born. Listen to what he says. Where back 20 years ago is maybe a different story. When I was, being the general manager of a restaurant at age 26, that's crazy. So I was kind of feeling it out, figuring myself out, figuring out who I am. And we all go through that. But you know what, Chris? I'd work for you. As long as you don't yell at me or put me in an arm bar or something. I'd be cool. Anyway, 1 hour and 15 minutes into this podcast, we can now begin to talk about tonight's Go Home Monday Night Raw live from the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. This was a show that I was really looking forward to because The Rock was booked. He was advertised even before last week when he made his surprise appearance. He was booked for the show. So was Roman Reigns. We knew this was going to be the final confrontation, before this weekend, before all of the combatants here. And this one was wicked fun. It was wicked fun. It was hella fun. Wherever you live in the country, whatever word is appropriate to you, that's what kind of fun it was. The show opened with a recap of last week. Great shit with The Rock, of course, beating down Cody, blooding Cody, ramming his face against the bus, wiping his blood on the belt. They even showed past when the show went off the air and The Rock continuing the assault and cursing, and just great camera work. Just the way that whole segment was shot, even the segment we would see later on tonight on Raw between Sami Zayn and Gable. It was a little cringy, but just the techniques they were using were just different. I'm loving post Kevin Dunn WWE. Loving it. So we got a recap of all that. And The Rock opened up the show, came out by himself, busted out the old cow print vest from like 2000. 24-year-old vest. And you know what? It was the same fucking vest. Because as soon as The Rock came out with it, I'm like, oh, I went to my computer to find a picture of him with that vest on from back in the day so I can tweet it. Hey, he's got another cow vest. And I started looking at it and I'm like, that's not another cow vest. That's the same cow vest. It had the same print. It all matched up. And he's out there wearing that 25-year-old vest. It looked awesome. And his entrance is just tremendous. The way the camera faces the ramp and the Tron and the lightning bolts come in and then the transition from the current theme to the Hollywood theme. Oh my God, that's just all kinds of good. He gets in the ring, he talks about what he did last week to Cody, and he asked if there was any Cody crybabies in the house, and of course they all made a bunch of noise. And then he showed a video on the Tron of some of the videos we saw on social media this week of like little kids crying about when they were watching Cody get killed by The Rock. And he showed that one that was floating around. That little girl with snot on her nose, and she really thought that Rock had murdered Cody. And she was traumatized. The kid was like 4 years old. I feel that's bad parenting a little bit there. But they were showing those videos on the screen, which was amazing. I mean, The Rock is just being an ultra asshole. And then he tells the parents of those crying kids, go get your kids. I want you to stick them right up to the TV so Uncle Rock can share some gospel with them, which was great. And he just basically said, sometimes in life you got to do what you got to do. And he just did what he had to do. He then shifted his focus to the Brooklyn crowd, and he congratulated them on the largest gate in the history of Monday Night Raw. So they pulled in, I guess, the largest dollar figure revenue for the event tonight in Brooklyn. And he credits himself. He goes, the reason you guys all came out and gave the Barclays Center the largest gate for a Raw is because of me. It's because I'm here. And he said, I didn't come alone either. And out comes Roman Reigns, along with Paul Heyman and Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa. They all come to the ring, and now the bloodline is in full force in the middle. And as Roman is coming in the ring, Michael Cole says something to the effect of, Roman Reigns said that if he loses the championship to Cody Rhodes, then he is gone, that he is leaving WWE. And we also had I don't even know where it was, but Paul Heyman made some comments this week, right, about how Roman Reigns considered himself basically retired or semi-retired before the pandemic. And that's kind of why he's been wrestling this schedule, is because he was all but done and he's just going to work limited and stuff. And now if they're kind of planting the seed of Roman Reigns perhaps leaving for an extended period of time after WrestleMania, that might be an indication that if we are going to get Roman and Rock, which I'm sure that we are, that might happen next year at WrestleMania. If the plan is for Roman to take any significant time off. But, I feel like they're still going to have a lot of momentum after WrestleMania. And I don't know if 1 week from tonight, if The Rock is just gone and he's just gone for another 8 months till he comes back and starts building his shit with Roman for next year or whatever. We don't really know how it's going to go yet. But I do think that whenever Rock and Roman Reigns do face, I feel like Roman is going to be the babyface. I think The Rock's heel work is so spectacular and he's been so good that I don't want to see it end, to be honest. I don't want him to be a double agent at this point. That was the early talk, the early chatter. Oh, was The Rock just going to turn on Roman and help Cody? I don't really think that's going to happen now based on everything we've seen. It feels like there's legitimate bad blood here, and that's great that they've been able to create that. So Roman is in the ring now, and all of the bloodline is there, and he thanks The Rock for giving him what's going to be the easiest WrestleMania of his life. I mean, this is a guy that's got to work double duty, and he's thanking The Rock for that, assuming it's going to be easy. And he says that they're going to smash those fools. We're going to smash those fools. And that's when Seth Rollins comes out. His music hits, but he does not come down the ramp. He comes through the crowd, Shield style. There's that one fan like right next to him, just filming him, which is hilarious. And this was really cool because Seth got on the mic and he challenged The Rock to a match. Now, as soon as he challenged him, I knew it wasn't going to happen, but it was very cool that he challenged him to a match. And then he said, okay, I know DJ doesn't have the balls, but what about you, Roman? Do you want to fight me tonight on Raw? So Seth kind of challenged both guys, but Solo Sikoa predictably wound up stepping up to the plate. Rock and Roman stepped aside. Solo walked right in the middle, and that was going to be our main event set up, Seth Rollins versus Solo Sikoa, and we had all night to think about it. So what I was saying on social media during Raw, I said, I have a feeling that tonight's go-home main event is going to be something that would rival what we would see like during the Attitude Era, like 1999 through 2002, something like that with a lot going on. There's probably going to be a post-match brawl, post-match beatdown, some epic visual to close the show. Something like that is probably going to happen. And as we saw, it did. So that was a lot of fun, the opening segment. Now, they then showed a recap of what went on between Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch on MMA Hour as they were on there after CM Punk. And then there was an interview backstage with Kathy Kelly, moment of silence for her beauty, where Becky tells Kathy that she'll be in the ring later and she wants Rhea Ripley to come out there or whatever. Then we get a tag team match, New Day and DIY versus Judgment Day. Big 8-man tag here, and this was when Michael Cole mentioned something that infuriated me. So this is a big 8-man tag. All 4 of these teams are going to be involved in that big 6-pack ladder match shit for the tag titles at WrestleMania. By the way, Judgment Day won. Priest hit a razor's edge on Ciampa for the win. That's what happened in the match. Match was fine. But what Michael Cole said prior to the match starting was that I guess the rule for the ladder match is that both sets of tag team championships need to be pulled down from the top. Meaning if one set is pulled down, the match isn't over until the other set gets pulled down. Well, that just means they're splitting the titles up, because what the fuck else would that mean? That is an idiotic rule. That's the stupidest shit I've ever heard in my life, that you got to pull down all the belts and the match isn't over until they're all pulled down. So obviously they're setting up for 2 belts to be pulled down or 1 belt to be pulled down, or something is going to happen to where 2 teams are going to walk out with belts. And that's a little bit fucking obnoxious and a little bit predictable. So what I'm hoping they at least do is one team gets a red and a blue one and another team gets a red and a blue one. and then maybe it's just a brand, and both belts are shit canned and you create new championships or whatnot. But I don't even understand why the belts have to be up there at all. If the point is just to crown one champion, it doesn't matter what you hang up there. You could put the belts on a podium, one of those nice, skirted podiums that they have at ringside, beautifully display the belts there, and hang a pack of fucking Skittles from the ceiling. And whichever team tastes the rainbow first wins the tag team titles. That's all you have to do. Now you're purposely making this other rule to where all championships need to be pulled down, which that would kind of be obvious if all the belts are hanging there. Obviously, all of them have to be pulled down, but the fact that they're pre-announcing this rule is just making it a little bit too predictable to me. Now, it's not like me to die on hills. I don't give a shit to die on hills. There's very few hills I'm willing to die on because on the account of I don't give a shit. But with this, I'm fighting this one to the death, man. I think it's a bad idea to split up these tag team titles. Some people disagree with me. I had 2 different people on social media today respectfully disagree. No, I want the tag team titles to be split up. I think they need to be split up is what somebody said. And I just think that's a generational thing. That's an age gap there. Because when you think about the tag team titles, WWE having 2 sets, it's been 20 years of that now. Most fans are used to having 2 sets of tag team titles. I've always found it stupid. Especially when they're tag team titles that are just representing a specific show, not a company. And we've seen how many times the belts have swapped. We've had belt swapping ceremonies and how stupid it is and how much it devalues them. I've cared about the tag team championships now for a good solid couple of years. And especially last year when Owens and Sammy, won them. And that was such a great moment. And Judgment Day's been solid with those titles, all throughout most of 2023. And I just think that the tag team titles, they've been main eventing pay-per-views. They finally mean something again. WWE even has teams. They have a division. They got a lot of good tag teams. They have a great tag team division. What they do not have is 2 tag team divisions. They have a great tag team division, but they don't have a great 2 tag team divisions. See what I mean? Like, I just feel like the belts are now going to be meaningless. When there's 2 sets of tag team championships, I do not care who the champions are. I don't care. It's too many belts to go around. And I think that when you have 2 titles, 2 championship titles, they turn into participation trophies. So think about it. If you're in the camp of wanting the titles to be split up, think about if you have 2 tag team championships and then get a sheet of paper and write down all of the tag teams in WWE across both brands. Write down every team. How many teams do you guys think you're going to come up with? How many teams do you think you're going to write down? 10? So if you have 10 teams and 2 championships, that means you have a 1 in 5 chance of being tag team champion. You have a 20% chance of being a champion in the WWE in the tag team division. It's a belt that's only going to be passed. It's going to be belts that are passed around just a couple of teams. Like, what are you the champion of? I'm the champion of 8 other guys? Tell me I'm stupid for that. Like, explain to me why my logic's wrong. Where if you have 1 set of tag team titles that float, now it gets, it spices up your roster a little bit. It adds, if a Raw team wins the tags, like currently on Judgment Day, that rule allows them to go to SmackDown. Shit, it allows them to go to NXT, I think. It might, even though they have their own tags over there. But they can go to SmackDown, they can go to Raw, they can compete against stars outside of their brand. To me, that's fun. Maybe you can't do that for the world titles. Understandable. But you can definitely do it for the tag team titles. And I think having a strong tag team division that's prevalent on both shows where the champion floats between is the best scenario. And so if Triple H doesn't think so, the only thing I can think of is this is WWE just specifically wanting to have each show have a tag team championship so they can sell more replicas or whatever. But it certainly doesn't make sense for any other reason, because now the tag team titles are automatically going to be devalued, because if I know there's 2 sets of tag team titles, I'm going to care less about them. Sorry. I'm not going to view a tag team champion as a real tag team champion because there's also tag team champions on the other show. I just think this is really stupid. This is really stupid. And it feels like That's what they're setting up for here. And I'm sure they can still do something fun. Miz and R-Truth are probably going to come down with one of these titles, and Catchy Repubbies are going to come down with the other ones, but then what do you do? Maybe this is a way of them unifying the belts. Maybe they're just taking the long way. I feel like WrestleMania 40 is where you should do that. But if you have a finish in that match where two teams come down with the championships, then maybe you book a match on the Raw after Mania to unify them. And you present them the winner with brand new tag team championships. Maybe that's what you do. I don't know, but I definitely think these red and blue belts need to be shit canned. We need to see new championships. And I think it would be better if after WrestleMania, those 4 belts go away and the new tag team champions are presented with new championships. That's what I want to see. But the more and more it sounds like we're going to get the belts split back up. They might give them new belts. They might not. I really want new physical belts, but I really don't give a shit if there's 2 sets. So I'm going to care a lot less about having new belts if we get 2 tag team champions, because that's going to ruin it for me. I'm not going to care. You're not going to, when on the podcast, on the Raw and SmackDown reviews, I'm not going to give a whole lot of time to the tag teams because I'm just not going to care. I'm just not going to care who the champion of 5 teams is. If each brand has 5 teams, and I think that's on the high end, I think it's probably less than 5 tag teams on each brand, but if each brand has somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 tag teams, I'm the champion of 5 teams. It's just crazy, The women's title was kind of like that when they created 2 women's titles. I know for a while there, that SmackDown title, there was only 6 women on the roster. Why are there 2 titles? I've had the same arguments and the same complaints about the women's championships, as I think it would be better to have a women's world and a women's intercontinental than having 2 women's worlds, right? So I was hoping some of this belt shit would get better with Triple H, but it sounds like they're about to really disappoint me at WrestleMania. I'll hold out hope that we have this thing completely misjudged and it's actually not going to be what we're thinking, but kind of feels like it is. And after that, we cut backstage to Rock and Roman Reigns. Rock is saying goodbye to Roman Reigns. How crazy is that? Rock is going to stick around and Roman is going to leave because he's got better shit to do. They shake hands and hug, and Roman says he's got to go write that speech. And Rock's like, oh, yeah, you got to write that speech, huh? He goes, yeah, I got to write the speech. And then Paul Heyman sticks his head in and goes, for those of you wondering what you just witnessed here, that is an exclusive. Roman Reigns is going to be inducting me into the Hall of Fame. So that answers that. It's not going to be a ECW guy, not going to be Brock, obviously. It's going to be who Paul Heyman currently represents, and that is Roman Reigns. So that's appropriate, I think, and that's huge because The Rock's going to be inducting his grandfather, and Roman's going to be inducting Paul Heyman. So Friday will be fun. Shit, man. I want to ask you guys, do you think Cody and Seth could attack at the Hall of Fame? I want them to. Or maybe make an appearance. Rock's been shitting all over Cody's mom. What if, Cody tried to come out and ruin The Rock's grandmother's induction or something? I don't know. Maybe. Might be fun. After we learn that news, we get a Chad Gable and Sami Zayn vignette. Like I said, I really like the way this was shot. I like the camera angles. I like the production techniques. That was good. They were at the PC training. It's just weird that Gable is training Sami when Sami's the one that beat him. Like, bitch, I beat you. Why are you training me? I should be training you. But Gable is, he knows Gunther and he knows how tough he is. And so he's trying to help Sami, at least we think, unless this is some big swerve here. And they do get a little bit of an argument, and Sami's got to, kind of cut a little promo on Gable and talk about Gable's daughter and how she was crying and, how he wants to beat Gunther at WrestleMania is basically the point. Gable helping him is a little bit weird, but it's got to tie into Gable challenging for the championship as well at some point. I mean, if Gunther, at this point, I'm not sold on Sami winning. I'm not, even though I kind of want him to. I'm not sold that he is. So if Sami does lose to Gunther, then maybe Gable has a chance to beat Gunther after all for the championship. We'll see. We then go backstage where Judgment Day's hanging out. And this is so stupid. So Dominic's back there with Judgment Day. Santos Escobar and his boys, Berto and Garza, show up. And Dom's happy to see him, and Priest and Mommy are mad, like instantly mad. You didn't tell us you had company. What do you mean company? You're in the backstage at Barclays Center. It's not your house. You didn't invite them to game night. It's like the Judgment Day sitting around the living room for Trivial Pursuit night, and then the door knocks and it's Santos and friends. Yeah, we didn't invite you. So I don't know what they're mad about, but Priest is pissed, Mommy's pissed, and then Dom's like, will you go talk to Mommy and chill her out a little bit? And then we're going to sit here and play darts. And they decide to play darts in their little clubhouse. And no shit, the dartboard is 1.5 feet away from their face. Like you could reach it with your hand. Oh, that's tough. I think the Judgment Day lacks depth perception for sure. But I was like, you could just put it right in the middle. Like it's crazy. It's like dunking on a 7-foot basketball hoop or something. So anyway, they've decided to play darts. We cut away from them. And then we get a rematch between Sami Zayn and Bronson Reed. So I'm like, cool, Sami's going to get his win back here. But he did not. He's got Bronson kind of on the ropes. He's about to deliver a haluva kick, and that's when Gunther shows up, dragging a beaten-up Chad Gable out into the entranceway. So Sami charges to run to take care of Chad Gable. Gable's injured and Sami's helping him. And then Gunther shows back up and attacks Sami from behind and destroys him, hits him with the belt, beats him down in the aisleway. Sami actually takes the beating and gets up and asks for more. And then Gunther comes in with yet another belt shot to the face and just completely demolished Sami. I'm assuming that's a disqualification victory for Sami Zayn. I don't even think I heard the bell ring. I don't remember hearing it. But I guess if Sami ran out there, I guess it could be a count out, but I think it's probably a DQ with Gunther kind of interfering there. And now I think that was a good final segment between those two leading into WrestleMania. And I believe they are night one, I believe, Sami Zayn and Gunther. What do you guys think? You think Sami's winning or no? Give me a yay or nay there in the comments. This was crazy. We cut backstage and Jey Uso just yeeting in the backstage area, and he just happens across Lil Wayne. Just sitting on a crate. Lil Wayne hanging out. They hug. I think Jey Uso invites him to WrestleMania, so Lil Wayne will be there. Maybe Lil Wayne's going to do why would they hug and make a big deal about that? Do you think? I don't even know Lil Wayne's music. I posted a hilarious 15-year-old Onion clip today about Lil Wayne on my Twitter account, so check that out. But I've never even heard his music, but do you think Lil Wayne is going to perform Jey Uso's song or something? I don't know. But it sounds like Jey has invited Lil Wayne to WrestleMania. That should be fun. Tag team matches up next. We have Maxine Dupree and Ivy Nile taking on Indy Hartwell and a little piece of shit, Candice LeRae, who's still acting like a big turd burglar. Maxine, though, gets a little bit of revenge here. Indy, you can tell the dynamic between her and Candice is starting to crumble. She does not approve of Candice's behavior. You can almost tell that she feels a little bad about what Candice is doing. And Candice is on the ring apron and Indy's facing her. Maxine comes in from behind, drop kicks Indy. She hits Candice. Candice falls to the outside. And then Maxine is able to roll up Indy and get the win for her team. So a little bit of a confidence boost there for Maxine. We all love her. And, Candice turning into a little Jezebel is in progress as we speak. Then we get a really fun Drew vignette, final Drew McIntyre appearance and vignette. He was not on the live show tonight. This was just a video package type of thing where he was at a church where it's like a coffin there and there's this funeral speech and he's talking about CM Punk and trashing him and trashing Seth Rollins. It was really well done. It was. Drew McIntyre has been terrific through this entire thing. At the beginning of the year, I was against him challenging for the title. I'm like, he challenged for the title on day one. He lost. Fuck him. But man, the Punk return and all of that, he's just really rejuvenated my enthusiasm in his character because I've always liked Drew, but Drew kind of just started just not giving a shit for a while there, and now he's just completely gotten my attention and he's been terrific in this whole thing. And I'm not sold on him winning the title at WrestleMania either, with that Clash at the Castle announcement coming up. That might be just the motivation Drew needs to re-up and finally sign that new WWE deal, especially, him and Cody both. Cody just re-upped for his deal. Hey, Cody, you might want to sign this because you're going to win the title at WrestleMania. Okay, let me sign. McIntyre might be the same thing. Triple H slide that contract over. So do you want to win the title at Clash at the Castle or not? Because all it's going to take is your signature. So I think Drew is sticking around, but the clash at the castle seems like a more likely spot at this point for McIntyre winning the title than WrestleMania. Because McIntyre's got all the momentum going in. He's been a shithead, trashing everybody, all the things he's done and said to CM Punk, and CM Punk is going to be on commentary. How is CM Punk going to be able to stand there and not get involved in some way in this match? Plus, you have Damian Priest to think about. I feel like McIntyre has a better chance at Clash of the Castle winning the title. That's what I would do. After that, we had Ricochet versus Ivar. This match made up for the match that was supposed to happen, I think, last week, and Ivar was like not medically cleared or whatever. So we got that match here. Big, huge 630 by Ricochet for the win. Good match there. And then we're backstage again, and boy, the Judgment Day clubhouse is getting awful full because they're backstage. Priest has been wondering why, he's wondering out loud to specifically JD McDonough why Ricochet hasn't been handled yet, and JD is like, don't worry about it, man. I'm in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal on Friday. I'll get him there. And that's when Dominic brings in Andrade. So you got Andrade in there with the Judgment Day and Santos and Berto and Garza, who are still playing darts from 2 feet away. It's getting a crowded, you got factions intermingling here, cross-pollinating. It's crazy. Andrade has a little exchange there with Santos, and, you know, Judgment Day's a little weary. They gave Dominic permission to team up with Santos, but at the same time, they don't want him inviting them into the Judgment Day household and playing Trivial Pursuit with them. So it's some dissension in the land of these factions, and I'm wondering if this is maybe laying some groundwork for Dominic to go find a new home. You know, I mean, at some point, I feel this would be kind of a fizzled out end to Judgment Day or Dominic there. I'd run with it a little longer, but I mean, at some point, Dominic and Mommy have got to break up. I mean, at some point that's got to happen, and Dominic might need a new family, and being adopted in by Santos Escobar, or maybe even something to do with Andrade. I don't know if Andrade is going to be part of Judgment Day or maybe with Santos's group, although Andrade's on Raw. Now, don't really know what they're doing here yet, but I do have a feeling, though, that Dominic is going to pin his daddy at WrestleMania. I just feel like they're doing this match, pulling it out of their ass, pulling it out of nowhere, and it might be Ray, you know, even requesting, hey, I want to give my son his win back. I beat him last year, and we had a great match, and I think he should be able to pin me at WrestleMania. So maybe that's what this match is all about. My early prediction is that not only will Dominic and Santos beat Ray and Dragon Lee, but Dominic will pin Ray for the win. That's what I think is going to happen. Then we had the Becky Lynch promo. Didn't care much about this. I liked their interaction last week, I think a little bit better. So Becky comes out to the ring. Of course, she's still mad. She showed up at the MMA hour to confront Rhea Ripley. Earlier on in the day, she called in when Rhea was being interviewed, and she goes, oh, I'm in New York. Now I'm right outside. And then Ariel's like, let her in, and they had a little confrontation, and they had to be separated. And so now Becky is in the ring. She wants Rhea to come out. Adam Pearce comes out and says, no, I'm not going to let you get anywhere near each other tonight. And he's got a bunch of security out there. Rhea Ripley shows up. She takes her belt, throws it at Adam Pearce, and then just like a running back, Barry Sanders style, or maybe not Barry Sanders, he jukes and jives, Emmett Smith, just right through the security there, powers through 15 dudes to get to the ring. Huge brawl with Becky. Pull apart, commercial, still fighting in the back, the whole deal. So that was their final setup for their match at WrestleMania. You know, trying to get a little personal. I found it cringy on MMA Hour when Becky Lynch showed up there. When you talk about my kid, you know, if she's really mad about Rhea Ripley bringing up her kid, she should come barreling in there. This is a crazy reference. Who's seen Super Troopers? You know when Farva is at the restaurant and he wants a large Farva, he wants a liter of cola, and the guy's like, I don't know what a liter of cola is, and he just has this issue with the cashier kid. And then something happens to him at the table, like he spills his drink on himself and the kid did, and he's pissed, and he just makes a beeline for him and he dives right over the counter, and the kid just goes, this is being attacked. I just wanted to see Becky Lynch come in like Superman, like head first, off the ground, like getting air, diving, leaping, jumping onto Becky Lynch. Chair tips over, fucking knocking all of Ariel Helwani's shit, cops being called, the whole deal. Like that would have been so much better. It was just a little weak. Becky should have been way more mad than she came off. So the stuff in the ring was a little better. And, I think that should be a classic at WrestleMania. I hope that it is between those two. And right now, I think my money's still kind of on Rhea Ripley in terms of the favorite in that match. But predictions will be this Thursday, so stay tuned. After that, it was Damage Control. We had a 6-woman Damage Control. It was everybody but the champ. So it was Asuka, Kyrie, and Dakota taking on Tegan Nox and Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. That's all I've got. I did not write down the finish. Damage Control won, correct? I'm assuming they did. It would be silly for them not to win. I'm going to just guess that they won. For some reason, I did not write it down. I must have walked out of the room and forgot about the match. That'll happen. So just confirm with me in the chat here that Damage Control won. Leader Acola, do you need my assistance? I've never seen Super Troopers 2. Is it any good? I mean, I assumed it wasn't, but can't beat the original. And that leaves us now with the main event. Seth Rollins taking on Solo Sikoa. And this match is Bloodline rules. That was something else that was set up in the opening segment that I think I forgot to mention. So it's going to be Bloodline rules, Seth and Solo Sikoa. And that is primarily, that Bloodline rules stip is primarily why I had a feeling that we were going to get something in the main event. And plus, we hadn't seen Cody all night. WWE claimed he wasn't cleared. So that guaranteed that we were going to see him. I was like, he was going to get him some of the Rock one way or the other. On tonight's Monday Night Raw. That's pretty much what happened. So Seth and Solo have their match. They brawl. It's good to see Seth back. I mean, this is the first match he's had, right? Since the injury. So the fact that he's back physically and ready for WrestleMania, having a match on Raw, a violent match, on top of that, just ahead of WrestleMania, that's why Seth is Seth. That's why Seth is Seth. So very cool to see him back. He puts Solo through a table in the ring and then goes to stomp him, and that's when Jimmy Uso interferes. Jimmy Uso hits the ring, stops Seth Rollins from actually winning the match. Jey Uso comes out. He hits the ring and brawls with Jimmy, and him and Jimmy start brawling down the entrance ramp and into the back, and then Jey Uso comes spitting back out, and followed by The Rock. So The Rock got his hands on Jey, threw him out back into the entranceway, and starts coming to the ring with Jey and smacking him around, and he makes a beeline for the ring where Seth Rollins is, and that's when Cody Rhodes comes out. We knew we were going to see Cody. The music hits, and I can't remember, did Rock get physical with Seth? Was he putting the boots to him or anything? I don't remember, but Cody's music hits. He runs down to the ring, and he's pretty pissed off, and we get a brawl. We get a brawl with The Rock. That was so great to see Cody punching and them exchanging blows and whatnot. They brawl to the outside of the ring, and Cody and Seth team up on The Rock. And I thought for sure that they were going to put The Rock through a table. And I even said in my head, I'm like, do you think Roman comes back? And I'm like, no, probably not. I think they purposely gave him something to do so Rock could be isolated here. And this could maybe play into the issues between them in the future. If Rock wants to call back to this moment about how Roman didn't have his back or whatever. So for a couple of seconds there, I actually thought we were going to get the spot. I thought that Cody and Seth collectively were going to put The Rock through a table, and that's how the show was going to end. And that would have been a pretty cool way to end the show. Seeing The Rock go through a table in 2024 would have been wild. But before they have a chance to, or Cody has a chance, Cody's on the table with The Rock. Cody has The Rock in his own move, rock bottom position. And before he hits him with it, Roman Reigns shows up from underneath the ring. I guess he's been under there for a while, attacks Cody, and him and Rock take control, and they beat down and annihilate Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins in the ring. Rock takes off his belt, and he's just whipping Cody. They're whipping Seth. They're just beating the shit out of both of these guys. Rock and Roman stand tall. Rock with his weight belt. Roman with his title, and the show goes off the air with the Bloodline, Rock and Roman Reigns standing over a beaten and defeated Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes. And I thought that was a really awesome way to close the show. And even after the opening segment tonight on Raw, once Rock started showing the videos, it was right after the Rock showed the videos of the little kids. As soon as the videos of the little kids started playing, I went right to Twitter and I said, congratulations, Cody, on winning the WWE Championship this Sunday. Because that's what he's going to do. That's what he's going to do. It's going to be a ride. I think the only thing that's predictable at this point is the outcome. I will be very surprised if Cody Rhodes loses to Roman Reigns again. It's going to be hard for me to justify that in my head. It's going to be hard for me to come up with a reason why that was the right call. Where last year, even though I predicted Cody to win, I wasn't dying on that hill. I still kind of wish he would have won last year, but when you look at where we are now, look where we are now. Who's to say that was the wrong decision? Because who could have guessed? Last year at WrestleMania 39, I was there. Never in my wildest dreams could I have imagined that 1 year later, a Roman and Cody match was definitely possible. The night after WrestleMania 39, we were already thinking about the two of them at WrestleMania 40. Little did I know we were going to have so much else involved with it. By then, CM Punk would be back in the company. The Rock would be here. And we'd be setting up one of the most unique and weirder, WrestleManias that we've seen. And I could have never imagined this much happening. So I'm really happy with where we are, because if Cody would have won last year, and CM Punk said something to the effect of this today in his interview, you could fantasy book Cody in a great way, but we might not be where we are now if you would have done it that way. So I'm happy that we're here now, and I have a much different mentality going into this match than I did last year. Cody, I predicted him to win, but I was not jumping off buildings when he didn't. I kind of got it. People that wanted to make the argument why he should have lost last year, I respect those arguments. Even if I don't totally agree with them, I kind of get where people are coming from. I'm not going to get where you're coming from this time. You don't have much to stand on here, because this is all just setting up Cody. It's time. Roman Reigns has been champion since, the Clinton administration. Enough's enough here. And Cody's primed and ready. He had the match last year and the full circle moment getting to this year and everything associated with this match and the bloodline rules and all the interference we're going to see and the personal aspects brought in. We're talking about family members here. The Rock's mom is now involved. The Rock's daughter and dog have been brought in. I'm sorry, Cody's mom and daughter and dog have been all brought into this. And I think that they are just really setting up an epic roller coaster ride movie on night 2. I really think that. And if you can get Cody's mom involved, I pitched the idea of sitting The Rock and Cody's mom next to each other. That's what I would do. Because now if The Rock wants to go out there and intimidate Cody's mom, show her a bloody belt or whatnot, and be that way and intimidate and threaten an old woman, you know what, Rock? You know what, Dwayne? You're going to have to do that shit in front of your own mama. Your mama's going to have to see you do that. Because that might, give Rock a little pause. Do I want to do this with my own mother right there? That's a dynamic we've never seen before. I know it's weird talking about wrestlers' moms being part of the story, but it's not Judy Bagwell. This is different. Rock's mom Ada's a legend. And Cody speaks very highly of his mom. She was married to Dusty Rhodes. You got to be kind of a tough woman to be in that world. And I think that would be an interesting dynamic, because you wouldn't think that the moms are going to have an issue with each other. If Cody's mom puts The Rock's mom in a sharpshooter, I'm going to mark out. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think, they're both going to be there. I don't know if they're going to be on separate sides of the ring, but they're both going to be at ringside. You know that 100%. I'd sit them next to each other. You also know Brandy is going to be there. I wouldn't be surprised if Brandy got in The Rock's face, and possibly even Dustin, if they can work somehow with AEW to at least not have him jump in the ring and hit the Shattered Dreams on anybody, but maybe be at ringside, at least be visible on camera to give Cody a hug. It's probably not going to be that. He's probably going to have permission to go to the show. He is. Probably just sit up in the box or something and watch. But if he could get some extra permission to actually be at ringside, that would be really nice. And he has talked a little bit about The Rock on social media, and I think there's a chance. I actually think there is a chance that we could see that, and that might be one of the benefits to one of the rare benefits, one of the few pros to Tony Khan not being the best leader, not being the best boss, just being a really nice guy. One of the pros to that is that he might allow this to happen. Where Vince McMahon, WWE, not so much. They're more likely to be more protective of their intellectual property and their people being visible on camera and that type of thing. And maybe Dustin Rhodes, who's in his 50s, I would feel a veteran, a wrestling veteran of his, of his caliber, someone with so many decades in the business, a storied career, son of one of the most legendary wrestlers ever. The fact that he could be so handcuffed is pretty crazy. As a professional, I wouldn't want to allow myself at that stage of my career, to be in my late 50s or 60s with 99.9% of my career in the rear view. And yet I'm somehow bound by some contract and I can't go watch my brother win the championship. I'd ask for my release. Tony, can you just release me so I can go there and do that? And I'll come back and re-sign with you, when it's over. Like, I really want to be there for this. Let me be there, please. And, Tony Khan having to say no to him, that sucks. But I think, Dustin's cool. Dustin would understand. He understands. You're under contract. What can you do? It's the way it is. So we didn't know Cody was going to jump to WWE and become a huge star, win the title at WrestleMania 40 and be in a feud with The Rock. We didn't know that 3 years ago. So it's just a weird situation. But if Dustin could be involved, that would be super. All right. Now, WrestleMania. Here's what we got. The main card, or the WrestleMania card, night 1, 2, Saturday, Sunday matches have been announced. They were announced before Raw, leaked out. I think I saw by WrestleOps, a couple of other accounts that had sent out the report, and then Michael Cole and Pat McAfee ran through all these matches. Now, I didn't check their work. I didn't make sure. I think all these are right, but when Cole and McAfee were going through the matches, I already had them written down. So I'm trusting that the report today was right. Let me know if I got any of these matches wrong. Here's what we have for Saturday, night 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 matches on night 1. It's going to be Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee versus Dominic and Santos Escobar, Gunther versus Sami Zayn, the 6-pack tag team title ladder match, Jade, Bianca, and Naomi versus Damage Control, Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch, that's a big one, Jey Uso versus Jimmy Uso, and in the main event, The Rock and Roman Reigns versus Cody and Seth Rollins. So I think either Ripley and Becky or Jey and Jimmy need to open night 1. Rhea being on night 1 is interesting because was she on night 1 last year? No, she might have been night 2. No, I think she is night 1. I think she was night 1. Didn't she go on before the tag match, right? I think Ripley and Charlotte, I believe. I think. So Ripley's on night 1 again. This kind of tells me there's not going to be a title change. Well, let me look at the card. Oh, shit, man. We got Rhea and Becky and Gunther and Sammy on night 1. I guess I feel like we're going to get new champions probably in the ladder match, right? Because they're going to split the belts up. So that might be the only championships we see change hands. Maybe one more, but I don't see all the belts changing. So I don't see Becky Lynch winning the title, Judgment Day losing their titles, and Sami Zayn beating Gunther. I don't see all of those things happening. I think it's going to be 1 or 2, but not all 3. So Becky and Rhea should either open, or Jimmy and Jey should open. That would probably be my preference, is to have Jey and Jimmy open night 1 and Rock and Roman and Cody and Seth close it. So that's our night 1 matches. Night 2, we have night 2, we have the Pride versus the Final Testament in a Philly street fight. Our wish was commanded. I believe it was 1 week ago tonight. We brought this up. We were talking about WrestleMania 13, the Chicago street fight between Nation of Domination, NOD and LOD. We just watched that last night. Thank you to everyone who was here for the WrestleMania 13 watch along. And we talked about it last night too. I'm like, they should do, the same thing they did here with LOD and the Nation. Instead of a Chicago street fight, do a Philly street fight. And that's what they're going to do. It's going to be a Philly street fight. Authors of Pain and Karrion Kross with Paul Ellering, which will be really cool, taking on Bobby Lashley and the Streets. So that'll be pretty fun, I think. We're also going to get on night 2, LA Knight versus AJ Styles, Logan Paul versus KO versus Randy Orton, Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre, Io Sky versus Bayley, and Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes. So that's 6 matches on night 2, 7 matches on night 1. And I think having less matches on night 2, as Tito appears, is probably the right call, because I think Roman and Cody could go 40 minutes. I do. At least 30. I think it's going to be a crazy match. And I think Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre are going to have all sorts of shit happen in their match. And you know what? I even think LA Knight is going to be a surprise hit with AJ Styles. LA Knight's going to win that match. He was booked tonight on Raw. They announced some appearances at the WWE World shit that they're doing on WrestleMania weekend. And they've advertised LA Knight to make an appearance there on Monday. I mean, I know it's a minor thing, and that's by no means a guarantee that he's going to win against AJ Styles, but it feels like it is to me. I feel like he's not going to lose or be humiliated on WrestleMania and then go do a media appearance the next day. He's probably going to be there to talk about his big victory and what it means for him, having that big win at WrestleMania. He is beating AJ Styles 100% at WrestleMania. So that's our match listings there for night 1 and 2. And also it was officially announced today that, in fact, The Rock will be inducting his grandmother, Leah Maivia, into the WWE Hall of Fame this coming Friday, finally officially announcing that. And props to whoever had that early leaked list of the Hall of Famers. They got every one of them right. So the Hall of Fame is locked and loaded for this Friday. And that, 2 hours into this podcast, concludes my notes. So we can just now talk about stuff and see what you guys have to say in the chat. I'll knock out some super chats. I will answer questions, that type of thing, and see what else you guys are talking about. All right, let me get back to where I was here. Let me knock out a couple of these quick little supers. Mike Witt has got 2 for us. Cody's mom and Brandy in front row this weekend. 100%. 100%. They're going to be on the bus with Cody driving in. Cody's mom absolutely has to be there. There needs to be a moment with Cody and The Rock. Cody's mom and The Rock. There will be. I think she slaps the shit out of him. Or maybe, Rock gets in her face and then Brandy comes in with a slap. You know what else I would like to see? If Brandy is going to be in the front row and she's going to be there all night, I would like to see her and Jade have a little, what's up? What's up? Who said it was open mic night, bitch? How cool would that be if Brandy is there and Brandy's at ringside? When is the match again? When's Jade's? Is she night 2 or night 1? I think she's night 1. Well, shit, Brandy could still be there on night 1 too, because Cody is in the main event of that. So I would put that's what I would do. I would put Jade, Bianca, and Naomi semi-main. They would be the final match before Rock and Roman and Cody and Seth. That way Brandy's out there. Because even if she's not at ringside the whole show, maybe she's in the back with the kid or in the bus or who knows, or in Cody's locker room. But if she comes out right before the main event, in the match before the main event, she can be out there for Jade Cargill's match. And then maybe when Jade is making her entrance, she can just walk by ringside and I don't have to do anything. No stare down or nothing. Don't tease anything. Just have the camera catch a moment between the two of them. That type of thing. I think that would be cool. Those are the little things I look for. I think that would be very, very fun. But Cody's mom and Brandy will definitely be visible, I would assume. Foxstar Killer. Oh, good. A movie review. I love these. Thanks for the $10. I've watched Super Troopers 2. It's pretty good. One of the few sequels that actually lives up to the original. Good to know. Also, how's the view from Sugar Heaven, bitch? I'm a big fan of the Super Troopers movie. It's so quotable. And I just, kind of like Dumb and Dumber, I just wasn't sure. That movie sucked, the second one. Or the sequel they did like 20 years later. So I just kind of assumed it would sort of be the same thing. I've never seen Joe Dirt 2 because Joe Dirt was a great movie, had a ton of heart, excellent movie, but don't want to see part 2. It looks dumb. So I'm glad that you're going to vouch for Super Troopers 2. I will definitely check it out because I like that. What's the group called? The something Lizard or whatever? Because they did other movies too. The other movie they did, they're like on an island or something, and Farva is like a Don Juan. He like gets all the chicks, so he had a better character in that other movie. In the lovely, I forgot her name, the girl who plays Brandy in Joe Dirt. That one. The Juliet. Meow, Tito. What's up, buddy? Oh my God, his eyes are so, he's just kind of waking up. Look at him yawning. Wake up, buddy. He knows it's dinner time because I should be done streaming by now. Let's see. Broken Lizard. Thank you for that. That's what it is. Let me see. Let me read some of these other comments here. Yeah, Rando Craig, Priest cashes in at Mania, you believe. You should check out some of my most recent episodes because I think in 3 or 4 straight podcasts, I talked for like 5 minutes in length about Damian Priest and how crucial it was for him to at least attempt to cash in at WrestleMania. And if he does not, then they better explain or give us some sort of a reason why he didn't. Like he's got to get hurt in the tag match or something, because otherwise he would be a damn fool to not try to take advantage of what should be 4 opportunities. He's going to have 2 champions in the ring at the same time on night 1, and then he's got 2 separate championships each on night 2. And oh yeah, that now we can finally maybe sniff this out. Where is that match? Okay. The match is on night 1. Okay. So the ladder match is at night 1. If Judgment Day loses, Damian Priest, I mean, it's starting to dawn on me now. Damian Priest's match is going to be over and done with before night 2, before the 2 championship matches. So even if Priest didn't want to try to cash in on night 1, and he could adversely affect and fuck up one of those championship matches if he were to cash in on night 1. What if he cashes in and beats Seth? Then what? Is it Drew and Priest? So I think we can rule him out for a night 1 cash in, because they're not going to do that. They're not, they've been telling this great story with Drew and Seth. They're not going to stick Priest in there now. So Priest is definitely, we can rule him out for night 1. No night 1 cash in for Priest. No way. Night 2 is a different story. And I think that Damian Priest I predict he will attempt a cash in the Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre match. I don't know if he will be successful or not. He might not, or he might. But I think he definitely needs to show up there. Because if he doesn't, that means I think he's going to come out at night 2. Or I think he's going to come out at Roman and Cody. He could be a part of that craziness. And honestly, I would be okay with that. Because usually when a Money in the Bank winner makes their appearance, and it when they're cashing in, they usually win in those situations. So this could be a situation where Damian Priest loses. If he were to, I just cannot see, after everything that Rock and Roman and Cody and Seth have built, and Cody telling his story, getting to the main event, overcoming all that adversity, winning the championship, finishing his story, and then Damian Priest cashes in on him. And then Damian Priest celebrates like Seth Rollins did at 31. And then what do? It's Damian and Cody for the championship now? I think at this point, as much as I love Damian Priest, I do like him. I would love it if he became world champion. I think he either has to just come in and steal that championship away from Rollins and McIntyre, or he needs to fail his cash in Roman and Cody. But it would be fun if they did that, if Cody won, or even if you hadn't had the match finished yet or conclude, and then Priest comes out there and all the fans are going to think that's what WWE is going to do. Oh my God, it's going to be Priest. Holy shit. Every fan is going to be convinced that if he's coming out there, they must have plans for him to win the championship. And then maybe Cody is able to fight off that and fend off that threat as well. He's just got it coming from all directions. So if you have a lot of interference, it's bloodline rules. People are falling from the rafters, coming from every direction. You got Money in the Bank people coming in trying to cash in and just make it wild as possible. The more pieces and elements, the better. Then I might be in favor of Priest coming out in Cody and Roman, just to really throw the fans off balance. And I'm so glad we're doing a watch party for this. I can't wait to watch this live with all of you guys and record it. It's going to be a blast. Who knows what we're going to see. Should create some great reaction content for the channel, because I think it's going to be wild. I cannot wait. It's going to be a fun week. So, oh my God. Anyway, I got to start thinking about signing off, because I still have dinner to eat and I still have stuff to watch. Like, I got to watch that Roman Reigns documentary. Let me, and the Bray Wyatt one. And there's a new Curb Your Enthusiasm to watch. Mike Witt, 5 more from you. Cody and Seth should do something at the Hall of Fame to Rock and Roman and Heyman, in my opinion. Otherwise, Dreamer should induct Paul. Well, Dreamer's not inducting Paul. It's going to be Roman. But yeah, Cody and Seth, we just said that. I mean, I was like, do you guys think Cody and Seth could maybe show up at the Hall of Fame? Maybe not get involved in the inductions themselves. Maybe after the show, maybe in a digital exclusive or something, or I don't know, or something like that, to where they get a hold of them backstage, or maybe after the inductions are done. Maybe I wouldn't, I guess I wouldn't be against it. Ronnie Matthews, don't be surprised if Becky gets booed heavily in Philly. Yeah, she probably will. It might be one of those scenarios like might be a Psycho Sid, Shawn Michaels thing from Madison Square Garden. Rhea's cool. Everybody loves Rhea. Elizabeth's 15-year-old daughter knows about Rhea Ripley from TikTok. She doesn't know shit about wrestling, but she knows about Rhea Ripley because everybody's thirsty for her. So apparently she's a big star on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok. I don't think I'll ever get on TikTok. I've never TikTok. But apparently everybody over there on the ticking and talking knows who Rhea Ripley is. Vaster, well, yeah. I mean, why does it have to be the belts? You know, you could hang anything. You know, there was a time you're hanging contracts. You hung bags of money. They've hung lots of things from the top. Why not a bag of Skittles? Whoever tastes the rainbow first wins the championship. Just trying to simplify things, make things easier. I don't know why it's got to be so complicated. Yeah, I understand that Steel Spurs. Asuka is going to, unfortunately for Asuka, she's going to eat another loss here at WrestleMania. But she's already lost so many. What's one more? What's one more? And you're not in the minority, Steel Spurs. A lot of people feel that way. What? Asuka's going to lose again? Who cares? It's just another. What has she lost? 6? Well, guess what? She's going to lose 7 now. She's going to win one. I'd rather have her get this monkey off her back one-on-one for a championship than in a 6-woman where she's largely in the background. This is all about Jade. This is her coming out party. Plus the visual of her teaming up with Bianca Belair and Naomi. And it's going to be about her. So even though Asuka is going to suffer another loss, I don't get too caught up in, oh, that she's not treated right, this is bullshit, or whatever. I mean, I think a lot of times these streaks happen by accident. I don't think it was intended that Asuka was going to lose 6 in a row. That's just the way the matches happen. And you don't want to, book a story or tell a story, and then the story kind of calls for one outcome. And then you're like, oh no, we got to change that outcome because they're winless at WrestleMania. Well, now you fucked up your story. So I'm not going to beat Jade on her first night just to give Asuka some record book victory at WrestleMania that the fans feel like she's deserves. Of course she deserves it. She's Asuka. She's awesome. But what's the difference between losing 6 straight WrestleMania matches and losing 7 straight WrestleMania matches? They seem about the same to me. It's just one more. So what I would do is, if I'm Triple H, I would call Asuka into my office. Sit down. Don't miss me. Look, I got to beat you again at WrestleMania. I'm really sorry. I love you. You know I love you. I'll make you a deal. Lose here. Next year, no matter what we do, you're going to get a victory at WrestleMania. And I'll do whatever I can to position you in a championship match. Maybe Io Sky and Bailey. I'm sorry, Io Sky and Asuka next year. Something like that. And I feel like then, next year when Asuka goes into that match, and let's say it's a championship match, I'm hoping it will be. I'm hoping next year it will be a championship match. There's 2 titles. Give one to Asuka. What's the big deal? So I'm hoping next year, and I'm going to predict this, that next year, going into WrestleMania 41, Asuka will be involved in the title program. She will either win the Rumble or win the Chamber or something and get a shot at one of those championships. Don't know which one, but she'll get a shot at one of them. And then on TV, the announcers can play up to the losing streak. Asuka has lost 7 straight WrestleManias. And now, this is her chance to finally right this wrong, get the monkey off her back, and, get this win that's been eluding her whole career. And that'll make her championship victory extra sweet. It's like winning two championships. Not only am I finally getting a WrestleMania victory, one that's been owed to me for a long time, but I'm also winning a championship. So I would have her lose one more time. If Cody can wait one more year to finish his story, Asuka can too. So I think that Asuka will just lose here, but next year, WrestleMania 41, I will not tolerate an Asuka loss. Hear me, Triple H? Get our girl back on the winning track. Exactly, Vash. We talked about this. Shawn Michaels, he's 6-11, I believe. He's 6-11 at WrestleMania. That's not a good record. You ain't making the playoffs with a record like that. If you're in football, that's an NFL record right there. It's 9th place or whatever. So it's all about the performances, you know? So anyway, I think I got to get out of here now. I am like hungry and stuff, and I got to do stuff, and I have a lot of preparation for this week. So I want to thank you guys again. Thank you for another great week. We were here on the podcast for the podcast on Saturday. That was fun. Watch along last night on Easter Sunday was a blast. Long podcast today talking about the Go Home Raw, WrestleMania, CM Punk, lots of stuff there. We will be back Thursday. I think I currently have that live stream scheduled for 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific, but it's probably going to be about an hour earlier than that. We'll come up here and predict WrestleMania, the entire card on Thursday, and we'll catch up on any news that's going around on Thursday. Then on Friday, immediately following the Hall of Fame, we will be here for a late night Friday night stream where we will review the Go Home SmackDown, talk about the winner of the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, and review the Hall of Fame. And then I'm going to get some sleep, wake up, eat my Wheaties, and I'm going to watch WrestleMania with you guys Saturday and Sunday. It's going to be a party. Please join me. Can't wait. Can't wait to have you all in my home to watch WrestleMania. I'm working on my overlay right now. It's going to be a nice, beautiful looking thing we're going to do, and we're just going to have a blast. So join me this week. Join me all week. It's going to be a lot of fun. And it's here. Happy WrestleMania 40 week to each and every one of you. And thank you so much for joining us this evening. You will catch me for sure live on Thursday, but you might see some content hit the channel tomorrow or Wednesday as well. And as always, hit the thumbs up button for me, please, on your way out the door. And if you're not subscribed, better get on that. Thank you so much. And I'll catch you guys in just a couple days. Peace.